I'm just gonna jump right into it here. I don't have anything to say, really. I forgot who we were even playing as. And where was Uni, anyway? Well, I mean, it kind of narrows it down. We're playing as Satoru in Kokoro's body. I'm gonna pause for a second so I can get out my notes. Okay, sorry about that. Continuing. I couldn't see him anywhere. And the moment I thought that, I heard a clattering sound coming from below the floorboards. From the square hole in the corner of the room. I looked into it and saw him there. Uni was fishing around in a wooden box, searching for something. I thought about calling out to him, but then decided that now wouldn't be a good time and stopped myself. It was enough for the time being that I knew where he was. Okay, so I think where we left off was he transferred back to Svea, and then he found himself having been cut in the arm. We were in Svea just before Kokoro transfers in there, and she sees Utsumi with blood on her hands, right? And then Kokoro ends up experiencing the blackout. Then during the blackout, the transfer occurs, and the moment the transfer is occurring, somebody cuts Satoru on his left arm. So he gets transferred just after he's cut. Then he runs away, then immediately transfers back to the shelter cabin to Kokoro's body. And Kokoro gets transferred there having a cut on her arm. But the attacker's already left at that point somehow. And so, yeah. Now, I forgot if Utsumi still has blood on her hands and Kokoro gets back after that. But... And I forget which of those transfers she listens to when in there she listens to the message that someone's after my life, left by Satoru. I think she would not have done that yet because Yogomi hasn't given her the memo to look at the voice recorder yet. It's very complicated, and I have not been keeping very good track of when exactly each of those little things have happened. Because honestly, I don't even think it's really that important. As long as everything that happens. But if you were to if you were able to trust the authors and think there might be a little plot hole in this, you could dig into these transferences and try to find one. Maybe. As for the other two, neither of them had said a word. Biting my lip, I walked around the room aimlessly, as if trying to throw off the shadow of death. The shadow wrapped itself around my ankles and slithered along after me. My heart raced in my chest. My warm blood became a muddied stream and coursed through my body. I placed my right hand against my chest and somehow tried to calm myself. By reflex, I quickly looked back down at my open palm. My left hand. I hadn't noticed until now, but Kokoro's left hand had been gripping the voice recorder. Did she leave a reply? Clinging to that hope, I hit the voice recorder's power button. Data 3. There was a new voice file. I greedily pressed my ear to the speaker and listened to it. Shish, shish. Woo. Did she drop it in the snow? It was disappointing, but there was nothing in the recording but meaningless noise. Huh. If I could only remember what was on the other side of the game, I would be able to comment on this, but I don't remember what she was trying to record that did not successfully get recorded. We haven't got to the wristwatch one yet, right? There wasn't any new data besides that. I unintentionally clicked my tongue. Oh, it's supposed to be like... It's not what the voice actor's doing. The voice actor's going... Not... The voice recorder had gotten soaked with my sweat. I wiped it down with my sleeve and placed it back into my pocket. When will the next transfer occur? What happened to my body? After this, I'll have to jump back into that blink darkness from before. Oh, blind darkness. I can't read. They're both middle fingers on your keyboard. And on top of that, my own consciousness will have jumped back and back without knowing what's going on. Knowing that the big shove might come at any moment, I couldn't relax for a second. And besides that, well, I fear for myself at the same time I'm worried about Kokoro as well. What if Kokoro were to wind up dead because of me? If it came down to that, what would I do? She didn't have any connection whatsoever to the events at Svea. Well, you don't know this, but she was studying Inabushi Keiko. That's her connection. But in spite of that, even now, there may be a sharp blade poised right above her throat. The image of Kokoro writhing in agony appeared in my mind. I wanted to save her. I wanted to change places with her this very instant. However, at the same time, I felt a crushing sensation of fear. A maddening feeling of frustration gouged at my chest. The time slowly passed as my inner dispute continued. Inside the cabin, shut in by a snowstorm. Even though my body was freezing, uncomfortable sweat ran down me without end. And then just at that moment... My volume was turned up really high on my computer, which doesn't affect the recording at all, but to me, that came in really loud. Lynn's shrill voice reached my eardrums. Oh, and it said, cut it out already. I jumped in surprise, so did I, and began preparing myself for the next attack. I timidly turned around. Lynn had stood up, her gaze was directed not at me, but at Yomogi. Yomogi, who was taken aback, was returning her gaze. She turned his way and began to approach, her high heels clicking against the floor. What's wrong? Without a word, Lynn snatched the newspaper away from him. Hey now, are you going to take away my only source of entertainment too? Entertainment? At the very least, I can use it to pass the time. I was reading it. Or would you rather be my conversation partner instead? Don't you think anything of it? How could you stay cool after reading such a thing? Who's staying cool? I'm just as scared as you are. However, in order to conquer my fears, I first have to discover the true nature of that newspaper. In order to climb a mountain, you must know its true form in advance. This is the same thing. Well, yes, that's generally true. However, the first person to climb the mountain tends to not... Before the era of satellites, the first person to climb a mountain wouldn't really know. That's why they tended to take multiple tries. How can this newspaper have true form? It's an obvious fake. A fake? You were singing a different tune last night, as I recall. There was no way it could be a prank, wasn't it? Oh, shut up. It's an eyesore anyway. Don't go waving it around in front of me. And with that declaration, Lynn hurled the newspaper toward the wall. It flew in my direction. I quickly dodged it. The newspaper bounced off the wall and fell on the floor. Her Highness is quite violent today. Oh, well, you haven't gotten to the part where she slams an ice axe into Kokoro's temple. Yomogi shook his head, fed up, and removed a cigarette from his pocket. He placed one in his mouth and lit it. Woof. He exhaled the smoke, then blew it back out again. What an insensitive man. It's better than being oversensitive like you, isn't it? Hey. That aside, do you actually want to be my conversation partner? You must be joking. Why don't you go talk to a snowman? Tossing those scornful words his way, Lynn returned to her bedside. Yomogi puckered his lips and blew a smoke ring. And
ね
then,
え、セイジ
hey,
ちょっ
Seiji,
と手伝ってくれない？
can you lend me a hand? Yuni's voice called from
おっ
below.
と、早速暇つぶしの相手が見つかったみたいだな。
Looks like I found someone to pass the time with after all. Yomogi stood up with a spring in his step, then descended into the underground storeroom with a cigarette between his lips. I suddenly remembered as I watched their exchange. Right before I transferred from the shelter cabin last night, when we were putting the newspaper back together, Yomogi, Lin, and Yuni were all freezing. So then, what happened here overnight? If anything, the three of them seemed to be more relaxed than after my transfer this afternoon. They were calm and quiet as if nothing was wrong. Did this mean that the three of them had settled the matter of the newspaper while I was away? However, if the cinders of the problem were blown on again and again, like they were just now, then eventually they'll catch fire again. Come to think of it, I had two questions since I arrived here. The first is, how can a newspaper from July 2011 exist here? It should still be January 12th, 2011 in the shelter cabin. So why is there a newspaper here from half a year ago? Half a year later? Could it be that, like my consciousness, the newspaper had jumped through time and space and shown itself half a year earlier? No, I always thought the most likely thing was that it wasn't actually January 11th here, it was like August 11th. The issue with that is that it's repeating a recreation plot. However, in my case, it's only my consciousness that jumped. In other words, something without a physical form. In contrast, the newspaper how can I explain it? Had mass. The newspaper was an entity composed of solid material. Even if it weren't a newspaper, but a CD-ROM or something, if only the information in the article I transferred, then you could say that it was the same as my situation in a way. But that's not how things were. The page was made out of actual paper, and on top of that, it was printed with a substance called ink. Therefore, I couldn't imagine how the paper could have been transported here via the same transference phenomenon. Then why is there a newspaper from the future here? I felt like I wouldn't reach a conclusion no matter how I thought over it. Continuing on, my second question. About Kokoro. Did Kokoro really read this newspaper article? If so, then how did she feel about it? Of course, it wasn't just Kokoro. We should be able to induce that she ripped it up. Yomogi and Lin read it as well. If someone were to find a newspaper from the future in which their own death was described, what would they think? How would they feel? Well, me, being in the real world, would also think it's fake. And be kind of offended by it. I tried thinking, what if it were me? A newspaper from the future, of unknown nature. In that paper was an article describing my death. If it were me, and I read that, what would I think? I mean, I wouldn't. So that's the answer I'm going to pick. I probably wouldn't believe the article. There's no explanation for how a newspaper from the future could possibly exist. I'd probably call it ridiculous and then toss it aside without a second thought. But I can't assume that the others feel the same. If you ask me why, it's because the words, the three bodies, are those of the survivors of the crash, are written there, and those three names correspond to those of the people in the shelter cabin. And on top of that, even Yuni's name appeared here, which meant that at the very least, they were correct in saying these four specific people survived the plane crash. And how would they know that, right? And therefore, there were only two possible explanations. Either the newspaper was from the future, or was from the past but written by someone with the abnormal ability of foresight. But no matter which was true, it didn't change the fact that the first half of the article was dead on. In that case, it was only human nature to believe the rest of the article would come true as well. It looks like I'm going to die on January 17th. Is that what they thought? Yomogi, Lin, and Kokoro? On the surface, they're doing their best to appear calm, but in their hearts they're all beset by an excruciating uneasiness. That's what I thought. On top of that, they were stuck inside the shelter cabin trapped by a snowstorm. They had nowhere to run. Despair. In a way, I had nowhere to run either. After all, it might come out that I died when the time of the next transfer came. I understood their feelings so well it hurt. Especially Lin's. Suddenly feeling worried, I turned to face her. Lin was crouched down in the corner of the bed, staring at the floor. That fiery spirit she'd shown until now had vanished completely. My feet unconsciously steered me in her direction. I slowly drew near and then took a seat on the bed next to Lynn.
何しに来たの？
You want something? She spoke softly without even raising her head.
いや、ちょっとな。
No, it's just... But it would be like a girl's voice saying
ご
that.
めんなさい。今あんまり人と話したい気分じゃないの。
So you're not really in the mood to talk to anyone right now.
ほっといてくれない？
Should you leave me alone? I mean, I would leave if I were him. The problem is I want the story content, right? I want the plot. So I'm going to do the thing that's, like, going to extract more plot. Obviously.
そういうわけにはいかないよ。
I can't do that. I spoke quietly, trying not to irritate her.
じゃあ何なのよ。
What is it then? How do you not irritate Lynn?
何か言いたいことでもあるわけ？
You have something to say to
鬱
me?
陶しいのよね、あんた。
You're annoying, you know
ど
that?
っか行ってよ。
Go somewhere else. Even if she said that, I wasn't going to get up that easily. I stood stubbornly still.
ふん。
I thought you were sitting on... I thought you were sitting on the bed next to her, so why does it say you stood? I
行
see.
くつもりがないなら、私が消えるわ。
If you're not going to move, then I will. Lynn stood up. She walked over to the corner of the room. She disappeared through the hole leading to the underground storeroom as if trying to avoid me. I could do nothing to stop her. No matter what I said to her right now, it would probably be useless, I thought. I could tell that she wasn't exactly of sound mind at the moment. At times like these, there's nothing I can do but leave her alone. I got off the bed and left her side. But why do you mean left her side when she's already gone? Did they just copy this text over from the other option? Like, this is what happens if you choose the other option and they didn't... They converged the two options too soon? Yomogi and Yuni appeared as though changing places with Lynn. The two of them climbed up the ladder one after the other.
なんかあったの？
Did something happen? They say while looking at my complexion.
何も。
No, it's nothing. Feigning complacency, I got up from the bed. The newspaper was lying in the corner of the room. I went over and picked it up. I sat on a log chair near the table. I spread out the patched up newspaper and scanned the article. I've only read part of this newspaper. There could be other important information hidden somewhere in the rest of the articles. I was worried about Lynn, of course, but I couldn't concentrate all of my efforts on her. The transfers. The transfers started everything. There could be a clue in this paper somewhere that might shed light on them. Resolved, I proceeded to read the articles. And then...
隊長！ヨモギ隊長！
Captain
来
Yomogi.
てください。財宝を発見したであります。
Come here quickly, I've discovered hidden treasure.
何？財宝だと？
What hidden treasure, you say? So this happened a lot of times before, okay.
どれどれ？
Let's have a look. I heard Yuni and Yomogi's voice behind the paper.
おほう、これは素晴らしい。
Oh, this is quite
素
splendid.
晴らしい色合いの財宝だ。
A magnificently colored treasure indeed.
しかし、青と白のストライプとは予想外だったな。
However, these blue and white stripes are quite
ほ
unexpected.
ら、ユニ隊員、触っちゃいかん。
Halt, Private Yuni. Touching is prohibited.
罠が仕掛けられているかもしれん。
It may be booby-trapped.
罠ですか？
Booby-trapped, you say?
ああ、そうだ。
Yes, that's
パク
correct.
ッとな、パクッとされる恐れがなきにしもあらず。
Closing on you with the great snap you see. A snap. It's a very real
で
possibility.
も隊長、
But Captain,
こんなチャンスには二度とお目にかからないかもしれませんよ。
such a chance as this may not appear before us ever again.
たとえ罠だとしても自分が犠牲に。
Even if it's a trap, I'll sacrifice myself.
バカ者！何を言うか！
You baka, what are you saying?
大事な隊員を危険な目に遭わせるわけにはいかんのだ。
I can't let my precious private first class face such danger. Nobody talks like this. Like, this is not a thing.
ここは隊長である私が全責任を負って。
As the captain, I'll take full responsibility.
いえ、隊長の死は 部隊の死であります。
No, the death of the captain means the death of the entire squadron.
自分には女房子供はおりませんので、悲しむ者は誰も。
I have no wife or children, and nobody to cry over
う
me.
るさい
Silence.
そんなことを言いよって
To say such a
貴
thing.
様さては財宝を独り占めするつもりだな
You bastard. Do you intend to keep the treasure all for yourself?
何をおっしゃるんですか、隊長。
What are you saying,
自
Captain?
分はそんなつもりなど。
It never so much crossed my mind to do such a...
お前らさっきから何言ってんの？
What are you guys doing back there?
その言い方
That way of
もし
speaking.
かして有機道くんかな
Would you perchance be Yukido-kun? It seems they finally noticed. It's too much of a pain to answer, so I got straight down to
で
business.
そんなとこでしゃがみ込んで何してんだよ。
So what are you guys doing squatting over there like that?
何って、それは。
Well, that is... Yunji and Yomogi stared at each other, and they returned their gaze to me. What their eyes turned to me was the place where my... No, it was the place where Kokoro's thighs converged. I instantly understood what they were doing and what their conversation had been about. I could only
お前
sigh.
ら気楽でいいよな。
You two sure are laid
お前
back.
らのことを見てるとこっちまでそのペースに飲まれちまいそうだ。
I feel like I might get caught up in the same feeling just by looking at you guys. Even though I might die as soon as the next transfer happens. And even if I did manage to survive that, faced with the mountain of urgent problems that were sure to kill me
まあ
afterwards.
確かにあっちに比べればこっちの世界は安らげるけどな。
Well, it's true that compared to over there, the world here is a lot more
あ
peaceful.
っちは始終神経を研ぎ澄ませてなきゃいけない。
I always have to be on my toes over there.
誰が信用できるかもわからない。
I don't know who I can trust.
その点こっちは気楽でいいよ。
Looking at it that way, I do feel a lot more laid back when I'm here. I took off the wristwatch as I complained. As had become my habit, I put it in my
あっち
pocket.
とかこっちとか何のこと言ってるんだ
What do you mean by there and here?
いや、なんでもない。
No, it's nothing.
続けてくれ。
Please continue. Saying that, I held up the newspaper once again.
続けてくれって言われてもなあ
Even if you tell us to continue,
うん。
yeah.
サトルだって一応女の子なんだから、膝閉じた方がいいんじゃないの？
After all, for the time being, you're a girl, Satoru. Wouldn't it be better if you closed your legs?
別に構わないだろ。
I don't really mind.
見られたって減るもんじゃないし。
It's no big deal if someone sees it. Yeah, but it's not yours.
それにな、どうせ閉じたって気を抜いたらすぐ元に戻っちまうよ。
And besides, even if I do close them, they'll just go back to how they were before as soon as I let my guard down.
こればっかりは癖なんだからどうしようもないんだ。
It's been a habit for too long. You can't really expect me to change it.
でも、
心に何か聞かれたら何度も注意したってそう言っといてくれ。
And Kokoro asked, please tell her I was really careful. Saying that from behind the newspaper, I heard Yuni and Yomogi begin to confer in frantic whispers. I don't really know what they're talking about, but well, whatever. I forget about them and focus on the newspaper instead. There was an article about Flight 18 on the local news page, but there wasn't any new information in it. It's the same no matter how many times I read it. It's not like the text of the article will change. After the snow thawed, the decompressed corpses of 3 men and a woman were found in the mountain. Decomposed. Which again doesn't make sense. Their names were, because they would have been frozen. The names were, they may have decomposed somewhat, but not 6 months worth. Yomoki Seiji, Fuyukawa Kokoro, and Mayuzumi Lin. They lost their lives at 6:53 a.m. on January 17th after getting caught up in an avalanche. Conversely, you could say that they were able to survive until that time. And Yuni's name was written there in the newspaper as well. The sole survivor, Kusuda Yunikun, 11. Even now, half a year after the accident, Unikun's mental state has yet to stabilize, and he is steadfast in his refusal to speak. The Aomori Prefecture police are still waiting for Yuni's condition to improve in order to obtain more detailed information about the events that occurred.
あ、 そうだ。
Oh, that's right. I'd forgotten something important. About Uni. The Uni in the shelter cabin right now wasn't the Uni of 2011. Even if he was in body, the consciousness dwelling inside that body belonged to the Uni of 2012. If not, then how could the words of Uni at Svea be explained? The Uni at Svea had said he didn't know anything about Mount Akakura. He was definitely involved in a plane crash, but when he came to afterward, he was suddenly at Svea. That's what he said. This Uni and that Uni had, if only once, changed places with each other, like me and Kokoro. I'll go ask the Uni here about it and get transferred. Yep. Okay, reflection 2. Make sure of it. Right as I thought that, the scenery shifted. A hot pain in my left arm. I reflexively jumped back and stood, ready. That silhouette clutching a knife. It might still be nearby. But there was no one there. I restlessly look around, bobbing my head like a chicken, but there was no trace of anyone else in the room. This is my room at Svea. Just to be safe, I checked the closet, under the bed, and even the bathroom. Not so much as a shadow to be found. I patted down my body, but found no other wounds except the one on my left arm. Phew. I muttered as I wiped the sweat from my
どうやら
brow.
逃げ延びてくれたみたいだな、心。
Somehow, it looks like Kokoro managed to get away. A feeling of relief blanketed me. Was it only tension that kept me standing? Fatigue suddenly surged through me. I sat down on the floor, drained of energy. I couldn't take so much as a single step. My body was heavy as stone. I was somehow able to move my right arm far enough to take out my wristwatch. Present time, 8:08 p.m. Since it had taken me time to make sure the room was safe, I immediately estimated this transfer had taken place at around 8:06 p.m. I put my wristwatch back in my pocket, and then I let my head hang. I gently rubbed my throbbing left arm with the palm of my right. It felt odd to the touch. Something appears to be wrapped around my arm. I felt a strong pressure on the wound, too. I stood back up, my rusty joints creaking and groaning as I did. I walked over to the door and locked it just in case. Then I returned to the center of the room. I took off my clothes. I looked at my left
包帯
arm.
だ。
Bandages. White bandages were wrapped around it. Part of the cloth was discolored by a thick line of red blood that still oozed from beneath its surface. Tracing that line with the fingertip, I felt it numb and tingling. Did Kokoro dress it herself? I doubt she could bandage it so neatly using just her right arm. It isn't even her dominant arm, after all. So then, one of the other three. As I pondered the question, I decided to put my clothes back on. Gritting my teeth against the pain, I passed my arm through the sleeve.
さてと。
Now then. And before I had time to catch my breath, emotions began to swell within me. An exulting feeling bubbling up from within me. Those were the emotions I felt toward Kokoro. Even if I thanked her 1,000 times, or 10,000, or 1,000,000, it wouldn't come close to expressing the depth of my gratitude to her. Because Kokoro was the one who let me escape from the demonic hands of the killer. There was nothing I could do. Even though it was my body, there was nothing I could do to help. Kokoro had saved my life. A deep emotion that couldn't be expressed with mere words expanded within me until it felt like I'd burst forth from my heart. It'd. I wanted to hug her and hug her and hug her, muss her hair and shout in her ears. Thank you, Kokoro. I'm so thankful. I could sing. But that was an unfulfillable wish. Well, at the very least, I could write it all down, I thought. I sat at the desk at once and picked up the pen. When I turned my eyes toward the memo pad, I noticed it. Letters I don't remember writing had been scribbled there. Nice to meet you, Yukito-san. I felt dizzy just reading the first line. The letters showed pretty low handwriting skills, like the scribbles of a foreigner trying to learn Japanese by imitating others. Then I
そういえ
remembered.
ば、心は左利き。
That's right, Kokoro is left-handed.
で、負傷したのも左腕だから。
And the injury is to her left arm, so... I see, so she can't help but write like this. It's inexcusable to complain about the poor handwriting and whatnot to someone who's just saved your life. Instead, the shoddiness of the letters she'd written beautifully conveyed how heroic Kokoro was. with the utmost effort trying her hardest, she wrote this. In order to give her earnest gesture the attention it deserved, I sat up ramrod straight and went to reading her message. Nice to meet you, Yukito-san. I wonder what I should write. There are so many things I wanted to write, I can't seem to bring it all together very well. You can probably tell just by looking, but my handwriting is like this, too. This might be difficult to read, so please forgive me. First off, I'll report all the important things to you. I've read all the messages that you left me on this notepad. I was only able to listen to half of your message on the voice recorder left at the shelter cabin, but I was at least able to listen to it seems someone's after me. And about your left arm. The one who cut your left arm. That someone was the one who did it. That person tried to take away your life. In other words, that's how it is, right? But just who it is, that someone? Please explain in a little more detail. What happened with Satoru's body? Why is it that you believe someone is after you? Or then, did you say that on the shelter cabin's voice recorder too? I was only able to hear part of it, so I don't know. If by chance you didn't record it there, please reply here. About the culprit. The truth is, it's not as if I don't have any ideas. There's no reason to beat around the bush, I'll just go ahead and write it. Suzukaje Hotori-chan. You're aware that she did, right? Recently she's been fixed in her Hotori personality, though. However, I don't think it would be unusual for her hidden personality to awaken at any time. And by her hidden personality, I mean the other personality within her. The personality that killed 12 people in Awazuma Hospital. It may be possible that that personality is targeting you, Satoru. I say that, but it's not as if I have any decisive evidence. It might not be appropriate to write things like this even though I don't have any real evidence. Even so, I don't think it would be going overboard to just give a warning. Be careful just in case. Next, about Uni. It's extremely complicated, so I can't say it very well. What should I do? That's right. First, there's something I need to ask you. Have you ever met a young boy by the name of Kusuda Uni? You know, right now, I'm thinking this, that maybe Uni is teleporting. Teleporting is when both his body and consciousness are transferred together. And the timing of his teleportation is the exact moment when Satoru and I transfer. Do you get what I'm trying to say? In other words, at the same time that I transfer back to Mount Akakura, Uni's mind and body jump back to Mount Akakura as well. Because if that isn't so, I can't explain how Uni could exist as two people at the same time. That's why by my prediction, Satoru shouldn't have met Uni even once. That's what I thought. Which is it really? Have you met Uni or haven't you? Please tell me. And I have two more things I want you to tell me. The first about Sphia. Satoru, you should know much more than I do about this facility, right? That's why I want to tell you to tell me everything about Sphia, like how to get outside and how to communicate with the outside world. The second about the shelter cabin. In the time that I'm away from the cabin, please tell me if anything important happens. I'm sorry. It feels like all I'm writing is please tell me, and things like that, huh? As an apology, here's the report. First about the earthquake. The earthquake occurred at Sphia. An earthquake occurred at Sphia. Because of that, the breaker was tripped and a blackout occurred. It's fixed now, though. The times to transfer, I checked properly, just like you told me, so here they are below. Yep, we already read these. 33 minutes, and then 7:33, and I'm at 8:06. Transfer to Sphia, so that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Transfer has occurred 5 times, 2.5 round trips, and at present I'm still here. It looks like the times are all over the place, but do you think there's a pattern? Well, then one last thing. I'll do as much as I can while in this world, so Satoru too, please take care of my body. Things are pretty bad here, but it's a serious situation there too. It might be kind of weird to say this, but please try not to die. No matter what happens, I'll protect your body until the very end. So you too, Satoru, please protect my body. Live, survive. The two of us together will escape from this weird phenomenon. And then, I can't think of anything else. Anyway, I'm waiting for the day I can meet you. For sure, somewhere will. So then, this is where Kokoro will enter message. Kindly forgive the roughness of my writing. Later then. P.S. If you do anything weird to my body, I'll never forgive you. Don't touch it too much, okay? Or don't touch it at all. P.P.S. Kind of think of it, I forgot to write something important. About the newspaper. You saw it too, right, Satoru? The newspaper that was in the shelter cabin. I guess she transferred mid-sentence. After the line, the newspaper that was in the shelter cabin, the rest of the page was blank. She hadn't drawn anything this time either. I was kind of hoping that she would, so I actually felt a little disappointed. That aside, I should write her a reply before it's too late. I grabbed the pen and faced the white notepad. Kokoro, this is the sort of sun, but do you know where the highest mountain on the planet is? Okay. I already read all these, I'm going to read them again. It's on the border of Nepal and Tibet. Elevation 8850 meters. It goes without saying that I'm talking about Everest. Or Everest. I hate the term Everest. It's like a mispronunciation of the guy's name. Well, then on the other hand, where do you think the deepest point on the planet is? In this case, the deepest point on the planet means the lowest place that a flesh and blood human can reach. In other words, not an ocean trench, but somewhere underground. Do you know where it is? The correct answer is in the Republic of South Africa, in a deep-level gold mine, where there exists the deepest hole in the world. The depth is about 3580 meters. But do you know what? I just found a place that's even deeper than that, inside my heart. So thankful to a girl named Fuyukawa Kokoro. This thankfulness is even deeper than that deep-level mine. And at the same time, I'm so moved it hurts. The feeling in my heart climbed higher than Everest. In other words, if the feelings in my heart were to be converted into units of distance, they'd certainly reach far above 12,430 meters high. It's alright how grateful I am to you right now. Of course, I'm talking about how you safely got away from the culprit who's after me. Thank you very much, Kokoro. Because I'm a scientific person by nature. That sounds weird when it's from first person. I can't think of the right words to express myself, but far above 12,430 meters. If my feelings can be transmitted through this numerical value, there's nothing more I desire. Well then, no matter how many words I string together, it won't be enough to tell you how thankful I am, but there's something else important I have to tell you. I have no idea when we'll transfer again, after all. I apologize, but I'll be changing the subject to my reply from here on. Q, by somebody did you meet? Who did I mean? I put it in the voice recorder too, but I don't know. My answer is that I don't know, except I don't think it's Uni. I don't have any proof of anything, but I can't imagine Uni being the one that's after me. I think I can exclude Utsumi-san as a suspect based on my personal impression of her. I can't. And in her case, I'm especially doubtful since her speech and conduct aren't the least bit suspicious. Yet. The last one is Hotori. I visited to talk to her in black and white. Just as she wrote, she was the culprit in the Iwazumi accident after all. Even if the Hotori personality is uninvolved, there's another more ferocious personality lurking within her. You can probably say that the probability is high. It would be going overboard to give a warning. Indeed, that's true. It wouldn't. Why do you think that someone is after you? Now that you mention it, I haven't told you the details yet, huh? I was on the clock tower when I was first attacked. I was pushed off by someone. Thankfully, my injuries weren't too bad, but if I landed the wrong way, I might have died. I don't know whether the culprit intended to kill me then, but they at least did it with the goal of hurting me in mind. After falling from the clock tower, I lost consciousness. When I woke up in Svea, it was probably a few hours afterward. Next day, they came after me. I was in the bathroom. While I was in the bath, someone tried drowning me by plunging my head into the water. And after writing this, I realized something.
そうだよ。
That's right, that's it.
心はこの時のことを知ってるはずじゃないか。
Kokoro should know about that time. Kokoro had seen the killer. No, wait. Kokoro had asked in her message, what do you mean by somebody? As though she hadn't the slightest idea. In other words, she didn't see the culprit after all. That is, everything took place while she was asleep after taking the pill? Is that it? At any rate, I've got to ask her. I once again turned to the notepad. Hey, Kokoro, do you know who the culprit is? Please tell me in detail what it was that happened then. I'm begging you. Sorry, the conversation changed direction a bit. Well, that's it for now. The clock tower, the bathroom, and my left arm being cut. These three things happen in succession mean that someone is after me. More specifically, someone is after my life. About Svea, is there any way to leave, or are there any means of communicating with the outside? It's hard for me to say, but the answer to both questions is probably no. If my memory is correct, there shouldn't be any way to leave or communicate with the outside world. I can't say this for certain because right now I'm a little amnesic from the fall. I more or less remember Svea, but it might be that there's something I'm forgetting. I apologize for only being able to respond with such irresponsibly unhelpful answers. If I remember anything, I'll tell you right away. About the shelter camp, did anything important happen? I don't think there's been any big changes. Yomoya and Uni are just lazing around. Only Lynn is emotionally unstable, but that's normal for her. There isn't really anything important that I have to tell you at the moment. With that ends my replies to the questions you asked me. Kokoro, I've answered everything that was within the scope of my knowledge. After that, there's the timing of our transfers. Thanks, you saved me. Thanks to that, I know that the transfer times I recorded in yours are more or less the same. Tentatively, the transfer times that I've checked go something like this. I want to say, okay, blah, 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 blah. Please don't mind the PM in the fourth one. At that time, I was in the dark, running away from someone with a knife. I didn't have the opportunity to check the time. I don't know yet whether there's a rule about the timing of the transfers. The only thing I can say for sure is that you and I both transfer into each other's bodies at the same time. With that, please continue checking the time from here on out, too. It's not like we have a big sample to work with after all. And lastly, about your body. Don't worry, I'll protect it no matter what. I'll take it upon myself to always repay favors. And moreover, Kokoro and I have a connection that can't be severed even if someone tries to cut it. I just noticed it now, but it seems that I, without you, am just me. Either way, the fact that I'm me doesn't change, but even so, when you're there, I feel like I could be more like myself. There is a 4-character Chinese aphorism that goes like that. Do you know it? Seki Jun Ka Se. Red except blue entirely is what it reads. Maybe I've been trapped by that phenomenon myself. Of course, it's because you're here that this phenomenon came into existence in the first place, though. Sorry, that was a little much, huh? Anyway, I definitely won't let you die no matter what. So try to relax somehow. Believe in me. I'll multiply my 12,430 meters worth of appreciation and pay it all back to you. And that's right, there's one last thing I want to say. It might be rude to say something like this, but Kokoro's drawing was the work of a prodigy. Well then, later. Imagine writing all of that out by hand in Japanese. No. Why would you do that? If it was me on the other end of Kokoro's like transfers, what I would be saying would be much more terse. I am in writing. I can be the epitome of terse. Later, I finished writing the message and decided to go to the dining area for dinner. I was incredibly hungry. I realized I hadn't eaten anything since this morning. In the end, I didn't even get that neither breakfast nor lunch that Itsumi made. Which reminds me, I wonder what happened. Oh, Kokoro ate it. While I was away from Sphia, did Kokoro eat it for me? At any rate, that didn't change the fact that I was hungry. Crucifies rat. Entering the dining area, I saw Otori and Yuni sitting in their usual places. On the table was a pot of beef stew that had pure white steam billowing from it. Additionally, there was salad, bread, glasses of water, and tableware and cutlery.
ちょうどよかったわ、冬川さん。
Ah, perfect timing, Fuyukawa-san.
今呼びに行こうと思ってたところなのよ。
I was just about to come and call you. Utsumi said the moment she saw me. Though disappointed, I calmly corrected
今
her.
の俺は有機堂悟だ。
I'm Yukido Satoru
あ
now.
ら、ごめんなさいね。
Oh, I'm sorry. Utsumi replied curtly, urging me to sit. We do this every single time. I had seriously started to consider putting on a name tag or something whenever I left my room. With the 4 of us assembled at the table dinner began. As their spoons traveled back and forth from mouth to plate, Utsumi, Hotori, and Yuni used the interval between mouthfuls to chat. It was neither noisy nor quiet. A supremely ordinary mealtime. None of the topics of conversation stood out in particular. The main subject was the earthquake that had occurred at Sphia. But since Kokoro had written about that in her message, I wasn't too surprised. I made the appropriate murmurs of agreement from time to time, although along with the occasional forced smile, and thus was able to ignore the conversation pretty well. I had only one thing on my mind, the killer who'd slashed my left arm. It could very well have been the case that the culprit is here among the 3 of them. I kept a close eye on the events going on around me as I ate, but nobody did anything suspicious. Which means that the real culprit is someone else, lurking someplace unknown to us. I kept eating as I reconsidered all these possibilities, so I don't actually remember how the meal tasted. Still, my hunger was out of control, and I consumed the beef stew in a flash. By the way, from listening to their conversation, I did pick up one thing. It appears that Hotori was the one who treated my arm. I was a little surprised. So Hotori had a gentle side like that after all. Before returning to my room, I tentatively decided to express my gratitude to her.
ありがとう、ほとり。
Thanks, Hotori. In reply, she said,
お礼なんて言わなくていいよ。
No need to thank me.
別に大したことしたわけじゃないんだから。
It wasn't anything special. Yeah, Utsumi redid it, so, I mean, the bandage on your arm isn't even hers. On returning to my room, I seated myself at the desk and reread the message from Kokoro one more time. There's only one part of it that troubled me. Because of that, Because if that isn't so, I can't explain how Uni could exist in two people at the same time. At the same time. Kokoro wrote at the same time. The meaning of that statement was plain to see. She probably still doesn't know that it's 2012 in Svea. She's under the impression that Svea, too, exists in the year 2011, like the shelter cabin. I hesitated. Should I reveal the truth to her or not? After going back and forth, I finally
伏せておく
decided
しかないよな。
I have no choice but to hide it from her. Because if I don't, she'll find out that I'm from the year 2012. And if she does, I'm sure there'll be all kinds of questions. What happened to Mount Agakura on January 17th, 2011? Then that question comes up, how should I answer it? Well, according to historical record, you're going to die in 5 days. I can't say such a thing to her. And that's why I decided to hide the problem from her. As well as the matter of the newspaper. Kokoro was just about to touch on the subject in her message, but I didn't comment on it. I didn't know. Should I answer her? It's the same with the Uni case. She seems to be questioning why two Unis can exist at the same time. But in order to explain it, no matter what, I'd have to reveal to her that at Svea, it's the year 2012. If possible, I wanted her to keep an optimistic perspective on the situation. I didn't want her to know about the avalanche on the 17th. Do not be like Satoru. Tell people everything. I can't saddle her with yet another burden. If it's just a matter of changing history, my own strength alone should be enough. That was what I decided. Casually, I glanced toward the window and the powdery snow dancing outside. The blizzard had stopped some time before. The incessant howling of the wind was gone, as though secretly snatched away. Having rested for a while, I decided to leave the room. My goal, of course, was to search for the culprit. If this is what you'd call a proper investigation. It's not as if I wasn't scared of the killer, but what would wasting time in my room accomplish? I needed to find out as much as I could. I opened the door and walked to the dining area. Before I could even think about whose room to start my search in, the figure of a lone girl entered my field of vision.
そんなとこで何やってるんだ？
What are you doing over there? She was standing stock still near the table. An ashen shadow enveloped her. It felt as if I were viewing a faded old photograph.
なあ、どうしたんだよ？
Hey, what's wrong? I slowly drew closer to her. She didn't answer. Her head hung low, she was staring fixedly at the floor. Beside her feet lay a dark brown lump, dirtied all over. It was making weird twitching, squirming movements.
なんだこれ？
What's this? I bent closer and took a good look at the thing on the floor.
ネズミ？
A rat?
ネズミだ。
It's a rat. I could tell at a glance that it was on the verge of death. Its limbs were going into gruesome convulsions, and its eyes so hollowed they could have rotted away. Its mouth flapped open and shut in a desperate attempt to breathe.
でも、どうしてこんなところに？
But why here? I stood up and looked to her. Her face was dull and expressionless, hardly like a flesh and blood human. Her eyes held no warmth. Her skin was as parched and lifeless as a sculpture carved from hard sand. It seemed as if I were to as much as touch her, her body would crack, then crumble apart. At my feet, a rat on the verge of death. And beside it, a girl whose soul had vacated her body. Completely bewildered, though I was. とにかく助けてやらないとな。 Anyway, we have to help it. Murmured that.
助ける？
It's like, no American, if they saw a rat on their floor that was about to die, would say, I have to help it. It would be, I got to sweep this thing and get it out of the house quickly before it stinks my house up. So we would take like a dustpan, we'd stuff it in the dustpan, we'd take it outside and we'd just throw it out. Like we'd put it like in the garbage. And it would suffocate in the garbage. Yeah. You probably wouldn't put it outside because it could get in the car, it could like come back to life and get in your car or something. Hotori suddenly spoke.
ああ、そうだよ。
In other words, we kill it. Yeah, that's right.
だってこのままじゃきっと死んじまうと思うし。
It's going to die if we just leave it like that. I had no idea what she was thinking, but just then, without warning, Hotori grabbed the rat by its tail. With all her strength, smashed against the corner of the table. My heart stopped. Though I tried to say something, anything, I couldn't even breathe.
死んだわ。
It died. She muttered those two words, dangling the dead rat like a pendulum from her hand. Then, with no more care than you'd show to an old rag, she casually tossed the body away. Her face warped into an expression of boredom.
お前、なんてことを。
What have you done staining the carpet with rat blood and not caring about this potential stink that incurs? Those words escaped the trembling throat, my voice hoarse. Otori looked away from me, her lips forming a pout. An expression of complete unconcern. She was calm, as though nothing had happened. The rat now lay dead in the corner of the room, blood issuing from its mouth. It wasn't even convulsing anymore. The thing lying in that corner was no longer a living being. It had been reduced to a mere object. Just a rat. But for some reason I felt very sad. The corpse of the rat lying miserably in the corner seemed so pitiful to me.
Kagome, kagome. カゴの中の鳥はいついつ出やる夜明けの晩に鶴と亀がすべった後ろの正面誰
Why did Hotori suddenly begin to sing the Kagome song? Was it supposed to be some sort of requiem? I just couldn't understand her actions at all. So even after the transfer, the echo of her voice still resounded in my mind. I couldn't get it out of my head. The gruesome scene that unfolded before my eyes. I am at the shelter cabin now. I know that, but Hotori's cruel expression was still scorched into my mind. Even now it rises like a phantom before me. Somehow, holding it together, I sat down on a nearby log chair. The imagery of the shelter cabin. I could hardly take in what was going on around me. Yomogi and Lin stood frozen in place in the middle of the room. Yuni was crouching beside the stove. The air in the room was growing heavy. It was as though some ominous entity was filling the room with its stagnating presence.
どうしたんだ？
What's wrong? I asked, but nobody so much as tried to answer. Still wearing a grave expression, Yomogi slowly turned his face to me.
結城道君か
Yukido-kun.
ああ、そうだ。
Yeah?
何かあったのか？
Did something
い
happen?
や何でもないんだ
No, nothing.
気にしないでくれ
Don't worry about it. And with that, none of them spoke so much as another word before bed. It seemed that the blizzard outside had also ceased at some point. Within that silence, night had fallen. Wrapping itself in the blankets on the bed, I took off the wristwatch. Okay, respite. It's been a while since I had seen a blue sky. Just like the people of old who worshipped the sun as a god, I truly felt like thanking it from the depths of my heart for this downpour of sunlight. Yesterday I had spent the entire day without taking a single step outside. Perhaps that's why the air was so delicious to me now. I breathed in a lungful of fresh air. The coldness of it permeated my entire body. The inner parts of my nasal cavities began to sting, but it was refreshing and it felt good. Last night, the last night of a year ago, that is, I got to bed in the shelter cabin on Mount Akakura. Then I woke up. When I woke up, I'd returned to Svea. That's why I didn't know exactly what the snowy clouds had, that the snowy clouds had been stripped away from the sky above Asagi Island. The weather correlates. Okay, that's important. Because it's like, it's not snowing at the shelter cabin right now as well, right? And they're going out to the wreck site, I believe. Regardless, the snowstorm that had lasted for 2 days had now completely disappeared. The time was around 9 a.m. I'm walking in the large garden south of the main building. I say walking, but even taking so much as a single step was no easy task. The fresh snowfall was deep enough to bury my feet. The surface of the snow was frozen over like the glaze on a pastry. My feet punched holes in the icy upper layer and made rustling sounds as they tamped down the powder underneath. The resistance from the snow put extra strain on my lower body, but even so, walking itself wasn't that hard. What was hard was resisting the urge to jump and frolic around in the refreshing wind. A landscape of untrodden virgin snow spread out before me. The urge to disturb the untouched land was tickling my primitive instincts. It felt a little childish, but I was hopping around like an innocent puppy as I cut through the field of white. I ran out of breath and leaned against the nearby wall. A massive circular wall that enclosed Svea. I know the wall was here, of course, but looking at it like this, it really did feel huge as it loomed high over me. A height not even a world record pole vaulter could clear. And you don't even have a pole. It was clear to me that trying to jump over it was futile, so I tried climbing up the side of it instead. But it was an unforgiving wall, devoid of hand or footholds, and impossible to climb. It's a big, beautiful wall. Just for the heck of it, I tried kicking it with all my might. There was a muffled sound on my foot striking the concrete, but that was all. Of course, there wasn't so much as the slightest tremor in the wall. As if declaring itself the very symbol of immobility and steadfastness, the massive wall stood with silent dignity before me. I headed back the way I came. Svea's main building was in the distance. I don't see it. The snow covering it shone a bright white. Looking at it from the outside, it looked like a castle made of ice from some old myth or fairy tale. The central clock tower soared high into the sky, like a tower holding a captured princess. Okay. So that extra thing to the right there, that was just the basketball court that I saw in the opening. Okay. While walking around under the blue sky, I thought about how Svea might look from above. First of all, it's round. At the center of the circle was the clock tower, with a radius of about 100 meters from the concrete wall that encircled it. The entire area enclosed by the circle was Svea in its truest sense. Svea wasn't just a building standing in the middle. Well, then it was a radius of 100 meters, though this is an estimate. Then the overall circumference of the wall would be
628メートルぐらいか。
628 meters, huh? As a rough approximation. That is not... Let's see here. 11 times 60 is 660. So that's 32. No, that's not, there's no 11 in there. Which meant that the area of the entire site was
3.14ヘクタールってとこだな。
around 3.14 hectares, I guess. Even with the grade school arithmetic like this, I was able to understand the approximate scale of Svea. Well, I understand it because the radius is 100 meters, but like, what kind of unit is a hectare as a hectares? .14 hectares, if you convert it, it would be about 7.76 acres. Thank you for us Americans. This value corresponded to about 2/3 of the space enclosed by the Paradise Park Dome. Well, it wasn't like everything would be solved if I just figured out the number. This was something of a bad habit of mine.
はあ、バカバカしい。
How stupid.
こんなくだらないことに頭を使うのはやめよ
I should stop using my head for something this pointless. I shake my head surprised at myself. There's no point in finding out what the numbers are. It didn't feel like they'd be important later on or anything. Oh, okay, so they are going to be important. So I'm going to write down 3.14 hectares. Or basically like pi hectares. Which that happens if you have a 100-meter radius circle, I guess. 7.76, I think. 76 acres. I stopped looking at the sky and let the abundant sunlight wash over me. This refreshing feeling could be put into numbers. I went back to find that the other three had already finished breakfast. While I'd been walking outside, it sadly appeared that I missed the meal. Well, missing just one meal shouldn't be too much of a problem. I didn't feel all that hungry.
といったわけで、こんなに天気もいいことだし、みんなで外に出て体を動かそうと思うんだけど。
Yeah, I get a situation where their clothes are different. These look like pajamas, I suppose. But like, it's not like the clothes are consistent. Like they're always day clothes when you're Kokoro and always pajamas when you're Satoru. Because sometimes they're day clothes when you're Satoru. They're just never pajamas when you're Kokoro. So anyway, with weather like this nice, I think we should all go outside and get some exercise. By the way, as a teenager, I would have never, like, past being a young kid, I would have never walked out of like the second floor of my house. Like, you wouldn't see me like walking around talking like this in underwear or pajamas. Same thing to me.
反対の人は？
Any objections? Uni suddenly proposed this plan to the rest of us when we gathered in the living area.
体を動かすってラジオ体操でもするつもり？
Exercise? You mean you want to do some radio aerobics?
単純にみんなで遊びましょうってそういう意味で言ったんだけど。
Nope, I mean we should go out and play together.
遊ぶ？
Play?
そう遊ぶんだ。
Yeah, that's right. Play.
新鮮な空気を吸って日の光を浴びて雪と戯れて。
Breathing in the fresh air, bathing in the sunlight, playing in the snow.
こんなところにずっと閉じこもったままじゃ息が詰まるでしょ？
That's better than staying locked up in these stuffy rooms all the time, right?
心にも体にも良くないと思う。だから。
It's not good for your mind or for your body, you know.
ユニ、本気で言ってるのか？
Uni, are you serious about this?
もちろん。
Yes, of course. Neither Hotori nor Utsumi were making any attempt to hide their uncertainty. Even I wasn't without my doubts. Yesterday, I was almost killed during the power outage. I didn't know whether the culprit was in this room right now or whether they were hiding somewhere unknown to me. But whichever it was, it didn't change the fact that I wasn't in the mood to play.
やっぱりダメかな。
Or is it a bad idea after all? Yuni's face fell as he looked at me anxiously. Although it shouldn't have been easy to turn him down, seeing that lonely expression on his face had weakened my will to object. While hesitating over how to answer,
面白そうじゃない。やりましょう。
it sounds interesting enough, so why don't we? Otori raised her head and declared her approval.
そうね。たまには気分転換も必要かもしれないわ。
Yes, everyone needs a change of atmosphere once in a while. Unexpectedly, Itsumi agreed as well.
サトルは部屋に引きこもって一人で遊ぶ？
How about you, Satoru? Are you going to lock yourself in your room and play by yourself? She is that person. Otori laughed teasingly as she provoked me, causing me to answer without
わかっ
thinking.
たよ。
Fine by me.
付き合えばいいんだろ？付き合えば。
I just have to come along, right?
やったー！そう来なくっちゃね。
Alright, then it's decided. Uni gave me a thumbs up. Certainly it would be better for me if we were all together rather than separate. And besides, the visibility outside was good. Even if it was a suspicious person out there, they wouldn't have anywhere to hide. I didn't have any particular regrets about agreeing.
で、ユニ君は何をして遊ぶつもりだったの？
So what do you want to play, Uni-kun?
そうだな。
Let's see. Mental guts in the snow? There's no point in being out on the snow for that.
実は具体的には何も考えてなかったりするんだけど。
Actually, I haven't come up with anything specific in advance.
ねえ、サトル、何か案ないの？
Hey, Satoru, do you have any ideas?
あんね。
Ideas, huh? I thought to myself, in this situation, the most ideal activity would be... So to snowboard, I I don't think this choice matters. So they're gonna do basketball probably. I don't know how they're gonna do like the problem with basketball is they have to plow the court. And you might go, well, snowboarding, yeah, but the hill isn't very big. That's the problem.
なあ、バスケは
Let's see if they bring out the plow objection. You have to plow the court out.
この建物の東にコートがあっただろ
Isn't there a court to the east of the building?
あれを使わない手はないと思うんだが
There isn't really anything I can think of that's stopping us from using it, besides it's covered in snow.
それは明暗ね。
Now there's a good idea.
私バスケット得意だから。
Basketball's my specialty, after all.
僕はあんまり上手くないけど。
I'm not really that good at it, though. Oh, I guess that if you pick the other one, then you do snowboarding, then you find that Hotori is not very good at it, and it's Uni specialty, I presume.
じゃあ他のにするか
Do you want to do something else then?
みんながやりたいならそれでいいよ。
No, it's okay. If everyone else wants to do it, then it's fine.
内海さんは
How about you, Utsumi-san?
そうね。私は別にやっても構わないんだけど、
Well, I don't mind doing that,
だけ
but,
ど
but
ボールがね、あるのかなと思って。
I wonder if we even have a ball here.
コートがあっても、肝心のボールがなければ話にならないでしょ。
Even if we have a court without the ball, then it isn't even worth mentioning, right?
確かにそれもそうだ
Well, that's certainly true.
大丈夫よ、心配しないで。
It's fine, don't worry about
ボー
it.
ルなら確か地下の倉庫に。
I think there was a ball down in the storeroom. I mean, isn't this covered in snow? Why is it NBA question mark? Is this some other alternate set of words that NBA could stand for? With that decided, the four of us split into two teams for our basketball game. After trying to balance everyone's strengths equally, the results were Uni and I, the boys' team, were facing Hotori and Utsumi, the girls' team. However, we couldn't play by the standard rules, mostly due to the court being hidden under a thick layer of snow.
ねえ、どうするのサトル。
Hey, what are we going to do, Satoru?
これじゃあバスケなんてできないじゃん。
We can't play basketball like this. Yeah, and you said that I don't think there's anything stopping us from using the court. What there is. Hotori dropped the ball she found in the basement. Without a single bounce, the ball dropped and sank into the snow.
でもゴールが使えないわけじゃないだろ
But it's not like we can't use the hoops, right? Saying that, I dug the ball out of the snow.
どういうこと？
What do you mean?
どういうことって
What I mean is
こういうことだよ
this. Holding the ball aloft, I tossed it into the blue sky. The brown orb drew a beautiful parabola and sank into the net. With that swish I so love to hear, the net sprang up and down as though dancing. A free throw tournament. I went over the rules with the others. Well, though I called them rules, they were nothing too complicated. The A-B team and the C-D team will alternate in shooting free throws. The order will be A-C-B-D. This will count as one turn. The person who can choose to either shoot from the free throw line or shoot from outside the three-point line. The ball goes in, their team will receive 2 points for a shot from the free throw line and 3 points for a shot from the three-point line. Here and after, the free throw line will be referred to as the 2PL and as 2-point line. The 3-point line will be 3-point line is the 3PL. I'm giving you acronyms for the text of my internal monologue. Just accept it. Abbreviations. This will continue for 9 turns, and the team with the most points at the end will win. It's like he's talking through the fourth wall.
というわけなんだけどわかったかな
So that's how we'll do it. Did everyone get that? All three of them nodded. The results were a quick round of rock, paper, scissors. The results of a quick round of rock, paper, scissors put the Hotori Utsumi team at first, with the Satoru Uni team second.
それじゃ早速始めようか
So I guess how this would work is Otori would get most of her shots, but not all, but like a little bit over half. Utsumi would get a little bit under half. Satoru would get not every single one, but like most of them, like 90%, and then Uni would get none. Starting the match without a whistle didn't seem quite right. Utsumi was the first to shoot. She decided to play it safe with a 2PL, and with a meek look on her face, she headed out onto the court. We already removed the snow around 2PL and 3PL. With the white field over the court, we'd opened up just enough space to comfortably shoot from. And inside the area we dug out around 2PL stood Utsumi.
一番内海かわり行きます
That was probably really silly feeling to voice act. So number 1, Utsumi Kali, here I go. With a spirited declaration, she raised her right hand high. Maybe it was because she was nervous, but it sounded like her voice was cracking.
ていうか内海さんボール
Hey, wait, Utsumi-san, the ball.
ボール
The ball. Murmuring to herself, she began looking restlessly back and forth near her feet. You know, the ball hadn't rolled anywhere near there.
こっちだよこっち
Here, over here. Saying that, I gently tossed the ball to her. After performing what looked like a frustrated pantomime of robot dance, Suzuki fell on her rear into the snow. The ball fell right next to her with a plop.
ごめんなさい。
I'm sorry. Still flustered, she got to her feet and picked up the ball.
あの人ってもしかしてかなりの運動音痴？
Does she have no athletic ability?
かもな
Probably.
一番内海かわり行きます
Same thing again.
それは分かったから早く投げてよ
We get it already, so hurry up and throw.
はいでは行きます
Alright, here I go. Go. And go sounds a lot better than Japanese, because at least it's only one syllable. Utsumi gripped the ball in both hands. Then she crouched down, widened her stance, lowered the ball between her bowed legs, and then gave it a great clumsy toss. So she underhanded it? The ball flew high in the air, hit the wire mesh of the fence, and dropped down onto the snow.
惜しい
So close. The three of us went speechless. We're speechless. Score 0-0. I entrusted our team's first shot to Uni. Picking up the ball, he made for the 2
頑張れ
PL.
よ
Go for it. I cheered for Uni as he headed into the court.
任しといて。
Leave it to me. He answered without turning away from the goal. And then he reached the designated area and assumed his stance.
風向きはと。
The direction of the wind is... He skipped up some snow, then released it. The powdery snow floated smoothly out of his
北
hand.
西の風2メートルってところかな。
A northwest wind, about 2 meters, I guess. Uni threw the ball to his chest. He was also using both hands, but unlike Utsumi, he wasn't going to shoot from between his legs.
それじゃ行くよ。
He's going to chest pass it into the net. That's hard. Alright, then here I go.
せーの。
Okay, that's apparently 1 and 2.
ふりゃ
Hoorah. The ball struck the backboard, then rebounded into the snow. Score 0-0.
あれおかしいな。
That's strange.
思ったより風の抵抗は受けないんだな。
There wasn't as much wind resistance as I thought. Uni returned, shaking his head.
どんまいどんまい
You also were just not even close. No worries, no
まだ
worries.
始まったばっかりなんだから気にすんな
You've only just started, so don't worry about it. At that moment, Totori suddenly spoke up.
ねえサトル
Hey, Satoru,
思ったんだけどさ
I've been thinking.
普通にやっててもつまらないからなんか書けない
It would be boring just to have an ordinary match. So do you want to bet something on it?
かけるって何を
A bet? What kind of bet? So she's turning into Yuka. Okay.
そうだな
Let's see. Otori crossed her arms and turned her glance to the ground. She walked about, tracing a tight circle in the snow. Eventually, she stopped and looked up at me before speaking.
私ね 実はサトルに頼みたいことがあるの。
Actually, there's a favor I wanted to ask you, Satoru.
私たちのチームが勝ったらそのお願い引き受けてくれない？
If our team wins, will you do it for me?
お願いってなんだよ。
What's the favor?
今は言えない。
I won't say right now. Not in front of... Which makes sense because it'd be in front of Uni and Utsumi.
でもそんなに大したことじゃないんだ。
But it's nothing big. Well, I only know how to do big things, so I'd be out.
ね、いいでしょ？
Alright, it's okay, right? She pestered me with a childlike smile on her face. The freezing temperature outside had colored her cheeks bright red. As I looked at that smiling face, I thought to myself, the one who killed the rat yesterday couldn't have been the Hotori personality after all. Of course, this personality couldn't have had anything to do with the Iwazumi incident either. The one who'd done all those things had to be another personality, not Hotori. If not, then she'd never be able to smile so innocently. It didn't feel like she really remembered anything about the brutal killing of the rat. That was probably because the Hotori personality didn't have a direct hand in it. That's what I thought. I believed in her.
わかったよ。
Okay, got
も
it.
しも俺たちのチームが負けたら、そのお願いとやらを聞いてやる。
If our team loses, I'll listen to your request.
だけど、逆に俺たちのチームが勝ったら？
But what if our team wins?
それはサトルが自分で考えてよ。
That's for you to decide, Satoru.
なるほど。じゃあ、そうだな。
Well then, after thinking it over for a short while, I answered.
そうだ。質問に答えてもらうことにしよ
Okay, then you'll have to answer my question.
質問？
Question.
う。どうしてもお前に聞いておきたいことがあるんだよ。
Yeah, there's something I have to ask you, no matter what.
なんだ、そんな簡単なことでいいんだ。
Oh, is that all? Yep.
オッケー。
Okay.
それじゃあ、もしも私たちのチームが負けたら何でも答えてあげる。
Well then, if our team loses, I'll answer anything you want.
よし。これで商談成立だな。
Alright, so that completes the negotiations.
あ、一応念のため言っておくけど、
Oh, but let me remind you, just in case.
これはチーム対チームの戦いだからね。
This is a team versus team battle, okay?
個人戦じゃないよ。
Not an individual competition.
賭けは私とサトルが勝手にやってることであって、
The bet is just something you and I decide to do on the side.
勝敗はチームの総得点で決まる。そういうことだよな。
So victory will be decided by the final score of both teams. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
ま、俺はそれで構わないよ。
Well, I don't mind
ってい
that.
うか、むしろほとりのチームの方が圧倒的に不利だと思うが、
Rather, I think it's your team that's at an overwhelming disadvantage.
本当にそれでいいのか？
Are you sure you're fine with that? Phew. Motori gave a slight smile, then without another word walked over to stand before the net. I watched her go. Motori picked up the ball. She chose the 3PL. She stood at that spot, then entered a shooting stance. She raised the ball to the level of her forehead and delicately bent her right wrist. Her left hand was only used for support. The unconscious posture of an experienced sportswoman.
頑張ってホトリちゃん。
Do your best, Hotori-chan. Sumi let out a high-pitched cheer. Breathing in, Hotori stood stock still. Her lips met in a straight line. And then she released the ball. It danced in the air, drawing a beautiful arc. And once it ascended to the summit of the blue sky overhead, it began its downward slope.
入っちゃった
It went in. I heard Uni grumble. And as he did, the ball was swallowed into the hoop. Score 3-0. I was up next. Without a moment's hesitation, I chose the 3PL. Uni ran over with the ball and passed it to me. But the moment I took it in my hands, sharp pain ran up my left arm. I completely forgotten I was injured. Holding the ball, I gently rubbed the wound as I stood before the 3PL. The cleared out space was small, but I managed to dribble the ball a few times. I shifted into a shooting stance. I took aim. I breathed deeply in, then out.
サトル大丈夫だよ
Satoru, it's
僕が
okay.
ついてるから
I'm right here with you.
入るよ
It'll go in for sure.
自分を信じて
Believe in yourself.
緊張しないで
Don't be nervous.
リラックスリラックス
Relax, which actually does not help you relax at all.
肩の力を抜いて
Don't let your shoulders
風
tense
向
up.
きはね北西から南東に向かって
This would be like, shut up. Hey, the direction of the wind is from the northwest to the southeast. Uni,
黙っててくれ。
please be quiet. Once again, I concentrated. Reverting the position of both my feet, I took a firm step onto the court. I held the ball overhead and supported it with my left hand. My fingertips trembled a little from the pain. Somehow I endured it. I narrowed my aim. Holding my breath, I concentrated all my nerves into my right arm, and I released the ball. With the spin I put on it, it rebounded off the backboard just as planned. And the shot sank as though drawn in by the net, sending it swaying.
ふわー入った入った
Yeah, it went in.
勇気堂先輩ナイスシューです
Nice shot, Yukido
すごい
senpai.
わね、ゆきどくん。
It's amazing, Yukido-kun. Hattori alone stared at me without saying anything, while chewing regretfully at her thumbnail. Score 3-3. After that, the game went on like that, and we alternated between offense and defense, now gaining, now falling behind. The second round, Utsumi 0 points, Uni 0 points. Hattori 2 points, me 0 points. 5-3. Third round, Utsumi 0, Uni got 1, 2 points. Hattori 2 points. She went down to 2. Me 3 points. Score 7-8. The fourth round, Utsumi 0 points, Uni 0 points. Hattori 3 points, me 0 points. 10-8. The fifth round, Utsumi 0 points, Uni 2 points. Hattori 0 points, me 2 points. 10-12. The sixth round, Utsumi 0 points, Uni 0 points. Hattori 3 points, me 2 points. 13-14. Seventh round, 0-2, 3-2. 16-18, you're winning by 2. Just like that, we entered the eighth round with a 2-point lead. Utsumi's wild throws entered the usual score of 0 points. But now I felt sorry for the wires of the fence. Uni had gotten the ball in 3 times so far, but regretfully his shot had glanced off the rim in the 8th round and earned him no points as well. Seeing that, I determined Hattori chose the 3PL.
これで19対18ね
This makes 19-18, right? With those words, she picked up the ball and tossed it in my direction. Our lead was snatched away at once, and our team was now down by a point. Grabbing the ball, went with the safe choice, the 2PL. Yeah, don't go 3PL. Why would you do that? I know why you would do that. Because you wanted to see what would happen if you lost. But I don't want to lose, because that's just losing. I don't like losing in any context whatsoever. But, losing is... Yeah, anyway. I stood at the line and steadied my breathing. By taking aim, I let the shot go. The net shot. The net shook. However, it wasn't shaking from the inside, but the outside. The ball had grazed the net and hit the rear support brace. Darn.
少し弱かったか。
A little too weak, huh? Muttering, I snuck a look over at Hattori. She had a triumphant grin on her face. 19-18. That brought us to the final round. Utsumi was up.
今度こそ、今度こそ。
This time for sure, this time for sure.
ガンバガンバ、カーリーガンバ。
Do it, Callie. Encouraging herself, she headed for the 2PL. Standing in place, she once again spread her legs as though preparing to lay an egg.
33番、内海カーリー、行きます。
Okay, number 33, Utsumi Callie, here I
けなげ
go.
だな、内海さんは。
Sumi-san sure is gallant. I unconsciously remarked as I watched her attentively. She probably won't get it in this time either, I thought, but just as I thought that, it went in. It goes in, doesn't it? Suddenly, an incredibly skilled shot sent the ball flying through the hoop.
入っちゃった
It went in. After a moment of silence, Utsumi began to jump for joy.
わーいわーい、やったボスやったボス。
Yes, I did it. I did it.
ねえねえ、見た見た、今の見た。
Hey, did you see that? Did you see?
すごくないすごくない
Was it amazing? Wasn't it?
私天才なのかしら。
I must be some kind of genius. Yes, you did, because at one instance you managed to underhand a basketball free throw. There was. Is that something some people? Is that a thing? I gotta search up the underhanded free throws. I think that's a thing. You don't do them two-handed though.
怖いわ。怖い怖い。
How scary! I'm scared. Really
この
scared.
溢れるような自分の才能が怖い。
I'm scared of my own overflowing talent.
天は二物を与えるのね。
It's true when they say the heavens bestow two gifts upon you, don't they? Yes, yes. Watching her jump and cheer, I couldn't help but think, does she have any similarity to her husband whatsoever? Score 21-18.
ねえ、どうしよう。どうしよう、サトル。
Hey, what do we do? What do we do, Satoru? Alright, Uni ran over to me looking
どっ
upset.
ちを選べばいいのかな。
Which one should I
2
choose?
点の方それとも3点の方
The 2-pointer or maybe the
うー
3?
んそうだな。
Let's see. After carefully thinking it over, I gave him my instructions. I should have saved scummed this, but I didn't. This is definitely on my time I go back through this. I'm gonna save scum this part. So 2PL is what makes sense to pick. 3PL is like how this game would manipulate things to make it hard to get the right. I gotta do the sane answer first. It's probably not gonna be the. Yeah, but this would be. No, I'm gonna do sane.
ここは無難に2点の方でいこ
It's kind of hard to figure. Let's play it safe with a
う。そ
2-pointer.
の代わり何が何でも絶対に決めてくれ。
Make sure you get it in there no matter
本
what.
当にそれでいいの
Is that really
2
okay?
点じゃもし入っても20点だから小鳥たちのチームに追いつけないよ。
Even if we do get it in, it's only 2 points, so we won't be able to catch up to Otori's
大丈
team.
夫だ。
It's
1点
okay.
差にまで詰めてくれれば、あとは俺が何とかする。
If you can narrow their lead to 1 point, I'll be able to manage somehow.
わかった。
Okay, I got it. Uni nodded obediently and headed for the 2PL. He stood right in place and set up his shot.
ユニ落ち着いて投げるんだぞ。
Uni, be calm and take the
俺
shot.
がついてるからな。
I'll be here with you, doing nothing but
自
talk.
分を信じろ。
Believe in
お前
yourself.
はやればできる子なんだから。
You can do it if you
緊
try.
張すんなよ。
Don't be
リラック
nervous.
スして、深呼吸して、
Relax.
肩
Breathe.
の力を抜いて投げるんだ。
Don't let your shoulders tense up. Just shoot.
いいな。
Okay?
風向きとかいちいち気にすんなよ。
Don't worry about stuff like the direction of the
そ
wind.
の距離ならきっと。
For such a short distance, you can definitely.
サトル
Satoru,
黙ってて。
be quiet. Uni selected an overhand shot. He might have been nervous, judging from the way he was standing pigeon-toed, but his face was a picture of serious concentration. I can do it if I try, just you watch. As if to say that, he hit his determination within his face. It was a childlike but incredibly tense expression. Like a puppy bravely challenging a ferocious dog. He seemed to radiate an innocent sweetness. I quietly watched over him as he stood there. Like a father watching over the growth of his child. I'm counting on you, Uni. Falling. I whispered inside my mind. Perhaps he could hear that wish, because Uni turned back to me just once and nodded before releasing a brilliant shot. As if it were dancing, the ball floated through the air, then fell toward the basket. Go in. I clenched my fist as I silently prayed. The ball hit the rim, jumped upward, drew a narrow in the air, and flew into the net.
よっしゃ
All right. Uni jumped up and down, doing a victory pose. I ran over to Uni and hugged him. If he'd scored the deciding point at Koshin.
うおー偉いぞユニ
Oh, that was amazing, Uni.
ユニ
Sure.
ーすごいっしょすごいっしょ
That was amazing. Repeated.
すげえマジすげえぞ
My goodness. Amazing, amazing, hardcore amazing.
じゃあいい子いい子して
Then will you do a good boy for me?
は
What?
いい子いい子って頭なでなでして
Say good boy, and pat my head, Kay.
してよ
Do it.
よしわかった
Okay, got it.
いい子なでなで
Good boy, pat, pat.
ユニタンユニタンええ子やって言って
This is dragging on too long. And I say, Uniton, good lad, you're a good lad.
ユニタンええ子や
Okay, is ton like an honorific for an animal or something? Uniton, good lad, you're a good lad.
嬉しい
I'm so happy.
お取り込み中のところ申し訳ないんですけど。
I'm terribly sorry to interrupt this touching moment, but
あ
え
you have to go, right?
まだ試合
終わったわけじゃないんだよね。
The match isn't over yet, you know.
21対20。
21 to 20.
私たちの方が1点勝ってるの。わかる？
We're still winning by a point, understand?
ここで私が3点決めれば4点差。
If I get 3 points here, it'll be a 4-point
そ
lead.
の時点でゲームセットってことになる。
At that point, it'll be game, set, and match.
喜ぶのは早すぎるんじゃないのかな。
Isn't it a little too early to celebrate?
さあ、分かったらさっさとどいて。
Well, if you get it, then hurry up and move.
邪魔だから。
You're in my way. Notori pushed between us and walked to the 3PL.
おとりちゃん、集中だよ。
Tori-chan, concentrate. Uni and I went back over to the fence, listening to Utsumi's cheers. I leaned against the chain link and trained my eyes on Hotori's motions. After dribbling the ball around the court, she got her shooting stance. She didn't look the slightest bit tense. A thin smile floated on her lips.
サトル、分かってるよね。
Satoru, you remember our agreement, right? Referring to our bet, she called out to me as she focused her sights on the net.
そっちこそな。
You too. I answered without much
残
courtesy.
念だけど、これで決まりよ。
Too bad for you, but this is the end.
どうかな。
We'll see about that.
私がミスると思う？
You'll think I'll miss?
いいから早く投げろよ。
Just hurry up and throw. Notori bent her knees slightly. She curled her back like a cat, composed herself, and kicked off from the court in a flash. The ball took flight. It soared higher and higher into the air, then began its descent. Then suddenly there was a gust of wind. The brown orb shivered in the air. An invisible force was pushing it. Surely this is what they call being hated by the goal. Her shot arced in the air like a curveball. Hit the hoop and flew over the backboard.
嘘。
What? No way. Her exclamation was carried away by the wind.
ほらな。
See?
へん、やったやった。
Yes, yes.
あとはサトルが決めてくれれば僕らの勝ちだ。
Now, if Satoru can only score, it'll be our win.
頼んだよ、サトル。
Please do it,
お
Satoru.
う。任しとけい。
Yeah, leave it to me. Score 21-20. A difference of a single point. Of course, there was no reason to go out of my way and aim for a three-pointer. I took the ball and hit it for the 2PL. Okay, they don't give me a choice. Good. That would freak me out. There's no way I'll let myself miss. With renewed determination, I got into
サト
position.
ル、楽勝だよ、楽勝。
We've got it, Satoru. It'll be an easy win. I heightened my concentration as I assumed my shooting stance. My left arm throbbed in pain. The trembling was transmitted to the ball, making it harder to aim. I readjusted my stance and relaxed my shoulders. Breathing out, I raised the ball for the final time. I waited for the wind to die down. My left hand was barely touching the ball. This one arm alone will decide our victory. It'll go in for sure. I held the image of the ball being swallowed in my mind. A comfortable tension enfolded me. I bent my knees ever so slightly. I held my breath. The wind stopped. The movie played in slow-mo. I couldn't hear a thing. Silence. But at that
左
moment,
腕、痛い？
your left arm, does it hurt? Just as her voice reached me, I released the ball into the air. The brown orb kept rising. It traced the line I had envisioned, drawing a gradual curve, soaring straight toward the net, as if guided there, as if something were pulling it in. Without the tiniest deviation right now, it was heading toward the center of that hoop.
入れ。
Go in. The hoop inhaled it. The net danced in the air, and the ball fell straight down, to land directly below the basket, throwing up a spray of white snow as it did.
よっしゃー。
All right. It probably wasn't very mature, but it let out a cry of victory. I'm going to pause for a second just so I can, stop talking. And I'm back.
イエーイ、勝った勝った。
Yay, we won, we won.
勇気道先輩、ミラクルなシューです。
Miraculous shootes. So, miraculous as a borrowed word shot, Yukido-senpai. Yune practically hopped over to me. We embraced like a boxer in a second after landing a KO punch.
サトルタン、サトルタン、いい子してあげるね。
Satoru-tan, I'll do good boy for you, okay?
いや、いい。
No, that's fine.
なんでだよ、いい子させろよ。
Why? Let me do good boy.
いや、マジでやめてほしい。
No, seriously, please don't.
ノリの悪いやっちゃな。
What a bad sport. But even as he said that, both Uni and I wore enormous grins. Like dancing a waltz, I spun Uni around and around in the center of the court. Match results 21-22. At the end of the very close game, Uni and I narrowly came out on top, with the score that's an integer multiple of 11 as well. After the match, I headed over to Hotori. Yeah, integer multiple of 7 to an integer multiple of 11. Yay.
というわけなので、後で質問させてもらうからな。
So I'll be asking you that question later, okay?
ま、しょうがないかな。
Well, not much I can do about that.
約束は約束だしね。
Promise is a promise, after all. Saying no more, Hotori left the basketball court. Finding back a yawn, she headed back to the main building with her hands nonchalantly clasped behind her head. She didn't seem to be all that bothered by the loss. I'd expected her to act really down or refuse to admit defeat, so I was almost disappointed by her reaction. As I watched her go, I removed my watch from my pocket. Present time, 12:32 p.m. The sun had just begun to sink into the west. Uni and I went back down to the storeroom to put away the
よ
basketball.
し、これで OK と。
Alright, this should be okay.
それにしても疲れたね。
At any rate, I'm pretty
お
tired now.
腹ペコペコだよ。
I'm hungry too. Uni clutched at his stomach as he headed back upstairs. I followed after him. However, right at that moment, something glittered in the corner of the room. I stopped and turned my eyes toward the light.
どうしたの、サトル。
What's wrong, Satoru?
なんでもない。
No, it's
先に言ってて
nothing.
くれ。
It's nothing. You go on ahead. Uni seemed a little hesitant, but
わかった。
okay, got it. And with that, he disappeared up the stairs. After I watched him go, I returned my focus to the corner of the storeroom. Something was there, hidden in the shadow cast by a pile of boxes. I moved the boxes and knelt down on the floor. CG. Piece of cheese. Cheese. The yellow lump couldn't be anything other than cheese. It had been set there on a plate about as big as the palm of my hand. It was oozing some kind of liquid. A fluid of uniform viscosity, tinged in faint brown, was seeping out of the cheese. At first glance, it looked like diluted tea. I picked up the plate and brought it to my nose. It had that unique smell common of dairy products, but the fluid sprinkled over the cheese had no odor of its own. Huh. Poison. Looking it up close, bite marks left by the teeth of the small animal could be seen near the
ネ
edges.
ズミか？
A rat? I couldn't think of any other animal but that could freely come and go throughout the storeroom. A rat. That word made me recall the aberrant thing Hotori don't have a hint for that word. Hotori had done last night. I don't think it was Hotori's personality that had done it, but the rat hadn't been completely dead. So Hotori's body grabbed it with the tail and smashed it against the table with all her strength.
死んだわ。
It died. She muttered those two words, dangling the dead rat like a pendulum from her hand. And with no more care than you'd show to an old rag, she casually tossed the body away. And then her face warped into an expression of boredom. That expression, those words, I couldn't forget them even if I wanted to. The scene from last evening had been engraved into my mind, every last detail of it. As I held the plate in both hands, I thought about something. Yesterday the rat was on death's door before I even stepped into the kitchen. Its limbs convulsing, its eyes hollow, its mouth flapping as it desperately struggled to breathe. The anguish it underwent gave the impression that it had been poisoned. In other words, it seems that Hotori's body, sometime before dealing the finishing blow, had given the rat something harmful. And now in my hands I held a piece of cheese saturated with some unknown liquid. One of its corners bore bite marks from the jaws of a small animal. I didn't even have to think about the rest. Making sure that nobody saw me, I secretly carried the plate to my room. I put it down on the desk and began to wander aimlessly. Alright, so I got it in here, but now I didn't know what to do with it. I'm not even sure if the liquid on the cheese really is poison or
試しに
not.
舐めてみる。ってわけにもいかないしな。
I could try tasting it and see, but obviously I wouldn't dare. Yeah, you wouldn't die like the rat because you have more mass, but I don't know what kind of damage you do to your nervous system if you did that. As I continue muttering, I heard a knock on the door.
まずい
Oh, this is bad. I hurriedly tried to hide the cheese, but it was too late. The person on the other side opened the door without waiting for a reply. I rolled around, trying to conceal the cheese behind my back.
ユキドくん、昼食の準備ができたけど。
Yukito-kun, lunch is ready.
ああ内海さんか
Is that you, Utsumi-san?
分かったよすぐ行く
Okay, I'll be right there. え
ユキドくん、背中に何か隠してない？
Yukito-kun, are you hiding something behind your back?
いや
No.
嘘。絶対何か隠してるわ。
You're lying. You're definitely hiding something. Utsumi drew closer to me. Pressing her hand down on my shoulder, she hefted herself up to peek over the surface of my table.
何これ？
What's
チ
this?
ーズ？
Cheese? Giving in, I explained everything to her.
なるほどね。
I see.
彼女のやりそうなことだわ。
Sounds like something she would
彼
do.
女って
She?
言わなくてもわかるでしょ。
I don't really have to tell you, do I?
小鳥のことか
You're talking about Hotori. Sumi gave a slight nod in reply, her expression
よく
serious.
考えてみてよ。彼女がここにいる理由。
Think about it. The reason she's here. I see. Inabushi Keiko had did, and she's a murderer. The motive behind your crimes at Iwazumi was still unclear, but it's a fact that she holds no qualms about killing living things. I guess a single rat would be no trouble for her. However, in the end, that's an act of another personality lying dormant inside Inabushi Keiko committed. Otori is not at fault. I believe that.
これ、ちょっと借りてくわね。
Like, would you let me borrow this for a while? Utsumi asked me, picking up the plate.
どうするつもりなんだ
What do you want it
こ
for?
こにかけられてる液体が本当に毒物なのかどうか調べるのよ。
I'll test it to see whether the liquid is poisonous or
どうや
not.
って
How? Utsumi smiled suggestively and left the room. Oh, you better warn Notori not to eat the food. The lunch Utsumi made I didn't so much as touch it. Though I hadn't eaten anything since this morning, I had absolutely no appetite. I wasn't conscious of it myself, but deep in my heart I had accumulated a fair amount of emotional stress. My stomach really couldn't take anything right now. And there was another reason I didn't touch the meal. The liquid sprinkled on that cheese. If it really was poison, and if the one who gave it to the rat and the killer who's after me were one and the same, I didn't really want to think about it, but as they say, better safe than sorry.
悪い
I-
ちょっと胃の調子が悪くて
Sorry, but my stomach doesn't feel good. I notified Utsumi and stood up from my place. I returned to my room. Sitting down on the bed, I folded my arms. My left arm was still throbbing. Unfolding them, I let my right hand brush the wound. That pain reminded me of yesterday, whether I wanted to think about it or not. Someone attacked me last night. But even I tend to forget things. Surrounded by the calm atmosphere of the other three, the urgency I felt knowing that someone was out to kill me was fading. But the scar reminded me. Someone had definitely tried to kill me. And I'll bet that the culprit still hasn't given up yet. I'm sure whoever it is just waiting for their next opportunity. Knowing that, it's impossible for me to just stand around here. In order to uncover the truth, I left the room. Dying. I saw Hotori over at the living area window. She was gazing at the snowy landscape outside, standing there alone. I slowly approached
小
her.
鳥
Hotori. I called out to her. She quietly turned around.
どうしたの？
What's wrong? But they're translating it, what's up?
竹のこと忘れたわけじゃないだろ
You haven't forgotten about our bet, have you?
質問させてもらうぞ
Are you ready to answer my questions?
はあ、いいよ。
Yeah, sure. A naive answer. With pure transparent eyes, she looked at me. I couldn't feel the slightest hostility or wariness from her. Face to face with such a defenseless woman, just what should I say? Are you the one trying to kill me? Like I could ask her that. For now, I decided to ask her about the
お
rat.
前夕べのこと覚えてるか
Do you remember last night?
夕べのことって？
Last night.
ネズミのことなんだけど
Gotta figure out if the mute Hotori and the not mute Hotori are the same, and why they're synchronized with the personality swaps about the rat.
はあ、それがどうかしたの？
What about it? Unexpectedly quick reply. Caught by surprise, I was left bewildered by a brief moment.
殺したのはお前なのか？
Are you the one who killed it? I finally brought myself to say it. Yeah?
サトルも見たでしょ？
You saw it too, right?
私がテーブルの角に叩きつけたところ。
I smashed it against the edge of the table. How can she say that with a straight face? Maybe right now
Why?
she's...
本当にほとりなのか？
Are you really Hotori? I asked her, studying her expression.
どうしてそんなこと聞くの？
Why are you asking me something like that?
私が別の誰かに見える？
Do I look like someone else?
じゃあ今のお前はやっぱり
Then you are Hotori right now, after all.
今の私は鈴影ほとり。
Yes, I'm Suzukaje Hotori right
過
now.
去の私も鈴影ほとり。
I was Suzukaje Hotori before, too.
未来の私も鈴影ほとり。
And I'll still be Suzukaje Hotori in the future.
ずーっと死ぬまで一緒。
Forever and ever until the day I die.
私は私。一生鈴影ほとりという名前を背負って生きていくの。
I am me, and I'll live as Suzukaje Hotori all my life.
当たり前でしょ？
Shouldn't that be obvious? Conflict welled up within me. I wanted to believe Hotori. I wanted to believe that Hotori's personality had nothing to do with the rat, nor with the events at Iwazumi. But her answer just now... The person here right now is unmistakably Suzukaje Hotori. She even said herself that she was the one who killed the rat. And yet, still grasping for a single ray of hope, I had to ask.
もう一度だけ聞くけど、
Hey, one last thing.
本当にお前がほとりがあのネズミを？
Hotori, did you really, that rat?
もうくどいな
God, you're so
あ。
stubborn.
なんでそんなこと何度も聞くのよ。
Why do you keep asking me that?
もしかして私のこと責めてるの？
Are you trying to make me feel bad about it or something?
たかがネズミ一匹殺したぐらいで何なのよ。バカみたい。
It was just a rat. I don't know why you're making such a big deal out of it. Yes, I also kind of agree with her right now.
たかがネズミ一匹って、
Just a
お
rat.
前かわいそうだとは思わないのか？
Don't you feel sorry for
か
it?
わいそうなんで？意味わかんないよ。
Sorry for it? Why? I have no idea what you're talking about.
相手はネズミなのよ。ネズミ。わかる？
Just a rat. A rat, got it.
殺しちゃいけないの？
Is it illegal to kill rats or something?
ネズミ殺したらなんか罪に問われるわけ？
If I kill a rat, is someone gonna press charges against me? Huh.
そういう問題じゃないだろ
It's not the problem,
じ
okay?
ゃあどういう問題なのよ。
And what
う。ネ
is?
ズミだって生きてるんだし、
That rat was a living being.
命ってものはあんな風に粗末に扱っちゃいけないものなんだ。
You can't treat a living thing with such cruelty.
うわ、出た。
Ah, there it is.
正義のヒーロー、ここに見参ってやつね。
The hero of justice makes his grand entrance.
かっこいい。
Ah, so cool.
っていうかさ、サトルはゴキブリとか殺さないの？
I mean, are you saying you never kill a cockroach, Satoru? I would, but let's see what happens if he says this.
殺さない。
I wouldn't.
マジで？
Seriously?
俺はむやみに生き物を殺したりなんかしないんだ。
Yeah, I wouldn't kill a living thing for no
じ
reason.
ゃあ、牛とか豚とか鶏とかは？
It's like, are you a vegan then? Fine, then how about cows or pigs or chickens?
魚とか植物とか微生物とかは？
Or
殺さない？
fish? Or fish or plants or microbes. You've never killed one?
殺してないって言える？
Have you used antibacterial soap? Can you say that you've never killed one? I can't. I remain silent. I had nothing more to retaliate with. A blue vein began to throb on Hotori's temple. With a sharp glint in her eye, she scowled at me, as if she were releasing a torrent of dammed-up emotions.
私がしたことはそれと同じ。
What I did was no
だ
different.
から人を悪者みたいに言わないでくれる？
So can you please stop saying things that make me look like the bad guy?
そもそもね、私はネズミに感謝されることはあっても恨まれるようなことをした覚えはないの。
Instead of hating me for it, shouldn't the rat feel grateful to me for doing
か
that?
わいそうだなんて思うはずがないでしょ。
How can you feel sorry for
た
it?
だ よかったわねってそう思うだけで。
I just thought that it was for the best.
どういう意味だ？
What do you mean?
どういう意味も何もないってば。
What don't you understand?
私はあのネズミを楽にしてあげただけなんだよ。
I simply relieved it from its
キッ
pain.
チンの床で苦しんでたから。
It was in agony on the kitchen
そ
floor.
れで息の根を止めてあげたってわけ。
So I ended its life.
まあ痛みや苦しみを取り除くという意味においては医者と同じね。
Actually, isn't taking away pain and suffering like that the same as what a doctor does?
私のしたことは人助けならぬネズミ助けなわけであり。
It's just that in that case it wasn't a human I helped, but a rat. Listening to her, I finally came to my senses. I see that I misunderstood Suzukaja Hotori. From this morning until the afternoon, Hotori had worn an innocent look on her face and behaved calmly, as if she'd forgotten about the rat. Looking at her, I thought about it. So it must have been that Hotori personality who killed the rat after all, I thought. But that was wrong. She committed the act as though it were perfectly natural because she thought nothing of it. She felt no guilt at all. That's why she can be so nonchalant about it. To her, I guess killing a mere rat was nothing. She only thought it was just another ordinary event in her ordinary life. Just a rat. Well, that may be true. But what if she said just a human being as well? The thought made my hair stand on end. And moreover, she had already taken the lives of not one, but 12 people in the past. I simply relieved it from its pain. It was in agony on the kitchen floor. Isn't taking away pain and suffering like that the same as what a doctor does? The motive for the horrendous murders at Awazumi Municipal Hospital may have been as simple as that.
話はそれで終わり？
What is it?
用がないなら私もう行くけど。
If we're done, I'll go now. There is nothing more terrifying than being without malice. Than a being without malice. The more naive her behavior, the more prominent the madness within her becomes. As easily as crushing an insect or beating a rat to death, she could take a human life. Once again, I thought that I had to change the way I viewed her. But of course, I didn't let it show on my face. Trying to keep my emotions in check, I aimed one final question at her.
ほとりの言いたいことは分かった。
I get what you're trying to say, Hotori.
お前は苦しんでるネズミを見るのが忍びなくて、だから殺した。
You couldn't stand to watch the rat suffer, so you killed
そう
it.
だな。
Is that it? Hotori gave a small
でも
nod.
その前にだ。
Before
そも
that,
そもあのネズミを瀕死の状態に追い込んだのはお前なんだろ？
you were the one who brought that rat to the verge of death in the first place, weren't you?
え？
Eh?
とぼけんなよ。
Don't play dumb.
倉庫の隅で見つけたんだ。液体のかけられたチーズを。
I found the cheese with the liquid poured over it hidden in the storeroom corner.
ネズミのかじった跡がしっかりと残ってた。
It still had the rat's teeth marks in it.
液体の成分はまだわからないが、おそらく何らかの毒物だろ
I don't know the composition of the liquid, but it's probably poison, right?
う。それをお前はネズミに与えたんだ。
And you gave it to the rat.
ちょっと待ってよ。
Wait a second.
私には何のことだかさっぱり。
I have no idea what you're...
嘘つくなって。
Don't lie to
お
me.
前以外にあんなひどいことをする奴はいないんだよ。
There's no one else here that would do something so cruel, like use rat poison.
違う。私じゃない。
No, it wasn't me.
じゃあ誰だって言うんだ？
Well, then who was it then?
知らないよ、そんなこと。
I don't know anything about that. Otori's expression stiffened. Her pale face began to twitch. She was clearly terrified. Even so, I didn't let up. I kept piling on
お
the
前の
pressure.
中には殺人衝動がある。そうだろ。
You have homicidal impulses, don't you?
その欲求を満たすためには人の代わりになる何かを殺す必要があった。
To satisfy those desires, you have to kill something else instead of humans.
だからあのネズミを。
So you killed that rat.
違う。
No, no, no.
毒を持ったのは何のためなんだ？
Why did you poison it?
単にネズミを動けなくするため？
So it couldn't move?
それとも本当は毒によって殺すつもりだったのが予想に反して生き延びてしまっただけなのか？
Maybe you intended to kill it with poison, but it survived?
なんでそんなこと言うの？
Why are you saying these things?
私じゃないのに。私じゃないのに。
Even though it wasn't me. It wasn't me.
あるいは苦しませること自体に意味があったのか？
Satoru is now becoming very unlikable. Or did you want it to suffer?
一旦ネズミを瀕死の状態に追い込んでおいてそれを殺す。
First you bring it to the verge of death and then you kill
そう
it.
することによって 私は苦しみから解放してやっただけなのだと自分に言い聞かせることができるから。
By doing that, you can make excuses to yourself, saying, I set it free from its
つまり
pain.
お前は殺傷行為に正当性を持たせたかったんだ。
Basically, you wanted to justify killing it.
もうやめてやめて
Stop. Please stop.
聞きたくない聞きたくない聞きたくない
I don't want to hear this. I don't want to. I don't want to.
そうじゃないのか。
No, that's
お
not
前
it.
はそもそもネズミの命なんてどうとも思ってないみたいだからな。
Because the life of one little rat means nothing to you in the first place, isn't that right?
罪悪感なんてないわけだから正当性を持たせる必要もない。
Since you feel no guilt, you don't even need to justify
そ
it.
れじゃなんだ。優越感に浸りたかっただけか。
Then what? Did you want to indulge your own desire for superiority? And to figure out a way to, like, avoid this line, but you probably can't. Because if you pick, do you enjoy killing? Then he just kind of goes off that route probably too as well.
のたうち回るネズミを見ながらその命を支配できるという立場に酔いしれていた。
While watching that rat writhing on the floor, you got drunk on the sense of godlike control over its life.
万能感。自らの優位性を示すことによってお前は
By affirming your dominance, your omnipotence, you... At that moment... No! All of a sudden, Tori screamed. At the end of her rope, she cowered on the floor.
やめて行きたくない行きたくない行きたくない行きたくない
Stop, I don't want to go. 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 Which, I guess in Japanese can mean I don't want to die, right?
このままここにいさせて
Let me stay here. Then an abrupt silence. Still crouched on the floor, she no longer so much as twitched.
Hotori?
Hotori? I called out to her, but she didn't react. I tried laying a hand on her shoulder. She slowly got to her feet. All emotion had been stripped from her face. That white face was concealed behind an inhuman mask. Her empty eyes saw nothing. I made to call out to her, but before I could open my mouth... Dependence. So that's what Kokoro gets swapped into. Okay. A transfer. I was holding Uni's small body in my arms. We were on the top bunk. Uni and I were practically glued to each other, our faces too close for comfort. I tore away from him in a panic. Something fell onto the bed with a soft thud. It was a scorched teddy bear. It had fallen between me and Uni. I picked it up and stared at it. The teddy bear was missing an ear. Judging from the soot all over its body, it looked like it had been through a fire. A fire. I instantly thought of the crash Flight 18. Still holding the teddy bear, I jumped down from the bed. Uni climbed down the ladder after me.
落ち着いたみたいだね
Looks like you've calmed down, he said. But I didn't know what he was referring to. I didn't know, but I guessed it was probably directed at Kokoro. Just seconds ago, Kokoro's consciousness was in this body. Uni's words meant that until a while ago, Kokoro was not calm. Oh well, I'll ask about that later. First of all, I told him I'm Satoru right now, so he wouldn't mistake me for her again. And Uni?
そうだったんだ
Ah, is that so? With that curt reply, he sat down on a log chair at the table. Holding the teddy bear to my bosom, I sat down across from him.
ねえそれじゃあサトル
So then, Satoru.
ちょっと待った。
Wait,
3分時間をくれないか。
could you give me 3 minutes?
えどうして
Why?
いいから頼む。3分間だけ黙っててくれ。
Come on, please. Just be quiet for 3 minutes.
ふい了解
Yes, sir. Uni made a mocking salute. Why did I have to silence Uni? The thing is, I now understood that the time right after a transfer is incredibly precious. A precious, busy time. There were several things I had to confirm, and giving myself some time to sort out my feelings was essential too. I knew information came rushing at me before I could relax. I'd panic. That's why I told him to keep quiet. Now then, time to get my thoughts in order. Starting with my feelings. I was worried about the change in Otori before this transfer. She probably screamed, cowered on the floor, and then when she got up, she looked as though she'd reduced to an empty shell. On the verge of insanity, or perhaps already a step beyond it. Anyhow, she definitely looked deranged, as though rational thought had deserted her. And the one who'd driven her to the edge was none other than me. I may have chosen my words a bit too carelessly. Hotori was already mentally scarred. My words had only served to further pick at those scars. Even if my intentions had backfired, how could I blurt out such idiotic words? All I could do now is regret. When Kokoro transfers there, how is she going to deal with the insane Hotori? Will she comfort her in my place? No, I can't push everything onto her like that. I've made my bed and now I have to lie on it. Now that I've calmed down, something else came to my attention. I still can't bring myself to hate Hotori. Back there, I unintentionally flared up and blurted out some pretty reckless things. But I really do want to help her. Even if she's a mass murderer? Yes. Even if she's a mass murderer, I can't abandon her. Because I can't really put it into words, but I somehow feel a shadow of a very similar existence within the girl called Hotori. Yuni, resting his chin in his hand, was tapping on the tabletop with one finger. Only 2 minutes had passed. In the remaining minute, I needed to take care of the things that I can only do here in the shelter cabin. I can't think about Hotori forever. If I was clicking a pin earlier, I'm sorry. Sometimes I need to keep the pin off the desk because I will click it without realizing it. I can't, okay. I switched over to other matters. There were 2 things I needed to take care of. Checking the time and listening to the voice recorder. Present time 1:57 p.m. 5 minutes have passed since I came to the shelter cabin, so the time of this transfer would be 1:52. I took the voice recorder out of my pocket and hit the playback button. No new messages have been recorded. So that left just one thing. I took out the wristwatch and fastened it around the teddy bear's neck. Then I set it on the chair next to mine.
OK。ぴったり3分だったろ。
Okay, that was exactly 3 minutes, right?
で、さっき言いかけてたことは？
So what were you trying to say just now? Let's see. He brought his hand from his chin to his forehead.
そうだ、思い出した。
Oh, that's right, now I remember.
実はね、
Actually, he wanted to ask me a favor. A simple favor. That is to say,
セイジとリンが外で喧嘩をしてるみたいなんだ。
I think Seiji and Lin are having a fight outside.
だから仲直りさせてあげてくれないかな。
So could you get them to make up, please? There it was. I probably stood up and opened the door. Yamogi was sitting right in front of the cabin, his back to me. Lin was lying in the snowfield, her arms and legs outstretched.
なあ、眉住さん。
Come on, Mayazumi-san.
いい加減起きたらどうなんだ？
Why don't you get up
う
already?
るさい筋肉バカ。
Shut up, you musclehead.
ああ、やれやれ。
Ah, good grief.
そんなとこで仰向けになってるとシミがたくさんできると思うが、いいのかい？
If you lie down in a place like this, you're going to develop spots all over. Are you okay with that?
余計なお世話よ。若いんだから大丈夫なの。
That's none of your damn business. I'm still young, so I don't care.
強がり言っちゃって。
Oh, now you're just bluffing.
何よその言い方。
What did you say just now? Could have been referring to sun damage or frostbite. Sun damage would make sense when it comes to I'm still young thing.
私の肌が老化してるとでも？
Are you saying that I have the skin of an old hag?
誰もそんなこと言ってないだろうが。
Honestly, nobody said
た
that.
だ山の紫外線は麓のそれとは比べ物にならないぐらい強いから。
I'm just saying that the ultraviolet rays on top of a mountain are a whole lot stronger than down at the base.
いいのよ。光合成してんだから。ほっといてよ。
Fine by me, I'm converting them with my photosynthesis, so leave me alone already. Except that photosynthesis is not sensitive to UV. It's like sensitive to like red. You know, there's 2 types of chlorophyll. I forget. It definitely sounds like they're fighting, but as far as I could see, it didn't seem to be anything to worry about. This is about normal for them. That aside, something's bothering me. The weather, this refreshingly clear blue sky. Mount Agakura had been blessed with clear weather just as Asogi Island had. Still, the temperature was considerably lower up here. Shivering, I pulled the door shut.
なんだよ。喧嘩って言っても大したことなさそうじゃないか。
What was that? You could hardly call that a fight.
でも、
But
それよりも 聞いておきたいことがある。
More importantly, I had something to ask you. I sat back down on the log chair. I got the sense that all I've been doing recently is asking people questions. But oh well. There are too many things I don't understand.
何？
What's up? Yuni inclined his head. There was just a trace of anxiety in that expression. I'll...
心のことなんだけど、
About Kokoro.
心のこと？
About
お
Kokoro.
前さっき言っただろ。
Didn't you just
落ち
say,
着いたみたいだねって。
looks like you calmed
あ
down?
れどういう意味なんだ？
What did you mean?
心に何かあったのか？
Did something happen to Kokoro?
あ、と、うんと、うんと、僕にもよくわからないんだ。
I don't really know either. I guess if you asked about the teddy bear, he would get more information.
わからない？
You don't know?
っていうか、なんか変だよね、こういうの。
Or rather, isn't this kind of strange?
え？
Eh?
だってそうでしょ？
Because, you
ココ
know,
ロンがどうなっちゃってたかについて、僕が教えてあげなきゃいけないなんて。
me having to tell you what's wrong with
本
Kokoro.
当はココロンのことは、僕なんかよりもココロンの方が、つまり、あなたの方がよく知ってるはずなわけで。
Truth is about Kokoro, more than me, is it is Kokoro, or rather it's you who should know better.
ちょっと待ってくれ。
Wait a moment.
今の俺はサトルだぞ。
I'm Satoru now, aren't I?
わかってるよ。わかってるけどさ。
I know that. Uni cut off his words. He averted his eyes, pondering on
まあ
something.
いっか。
Oh, forget it, he muttered.
とにかく、ココロンがどうして泣いちゃったのか、僕にはわからないんだ。
Anyway, on why Kokoro cried, I don't
泣い
know.
た？
Fried?
そうだよ。
Yeah.
ここに帰ってきてから、急に塞ぎ込んじゃって。
After she came back, she was all gloomy.
だから僕、どうしたのって聞いてみたんだ。
So I tried to ask what was wrong.
そしたらココロンは、僕のことを抱きしめて。
Then Kokoro hugged
そ
me,
れで涙を流した後、
and she started crying. Uni nodded
こ
quietly.
こに帰ってきたってことは、心はそれまでどこかに出かけてたってことだよな。
You said after she came back. You mean she'd gone somewhere outside until then? Yeah.
どこに？
Where?
飛行機の墜落地点だよ。
To the crash site of the
出
airplane.
かけていったのは、だいぶ前のことだけどね。
She set out early, I think.
9時半ぐらいだったかな。
Around
一
9:30.
人で行ったのか？
Did she go alone?
セイジと2人で。
No, she went with Seiji.
それで、食料とか使えそうなものとか、いろいろ持ち帰ってきて。
Later, they came back carrying food supplies and some useful stuff, among other things.
あ、そうだ。
Ah, I see.
今、サトルの隣にあるテディベア。
The teddy bear next to
それ
you.
もセイジが拾ってきてくれたんだ。
Seiji found that too. Picking the teddy bear up, I gazed at it again. When I tried to touch its face, I felt something wet.
そうか。
I see. After muttering in a weak voice, I put the teddy bear back down. From how Uni described it, I could more or less imagine. Kokoro went to the crash site. Most likely she saw the disfigured crash victims. I'm sure she was exposed to a terrible sight. I can't begin to comprehend what she saw stretched before my eyes. It would be only natural to feel shock. She's a girl, and moreover, she was on the same plane with all those people. I understood how she felt. At the same time, I felt restless. She must be fairly distraught by now. On top of that, another transfer occurred at the worst possible moment. It would be strange for her to lose it completely. I wonder if you lose at basketball, then you don't... Like, if you lose at basketball, then Hotori asks you a favor, right? So if she asks you a favor, then you don't have that conversation. So then you don't make her mad, so then that thing in Kokoro's side can't happen. So does that mean it has to end in a bad ending? Because you can't be consistent? Huh. I would have liked to do that, though. Nevertheless, I can't be by her side. There's nothing I can do to comfort her. Like two magnetic poles, we can never come in contact with each other. All I can do is...
そうか。ボイスレコーダーか。
Oh, that's right, the voice recorder. I whispered without thinking. Uni stared at me
ごめ
blankly.
ん。ちょっと。
Sorry, would you give me a minute? Accusing myself, I stood up from the table and went down to the underground storeroom. I took the voice recorder out of my pocket. I put my finger on the record button. But what should I say to her? I hadn't really thought this through. But unable to restrain myself in my impatience, my finger moved on its own. The recording light lit up. I had to say something. Still thinking, I started to speak.
あ俺だサトルだ
It's me,
ユニ
Satoru.
から聞いたよ
I heard from
墜落
you.
現場に行ったらしいな
Seems you went to the crash site, huh?
俺は不器用だからこういう時なんて言えばいいのかよくわからないんだけど
I'm kind of awkward, so I don't know what to say at times like this.
ただ一つだけ
Just one thing. Just say that.
俺は心が生きててくれて嬉しいよ
This is what you see here on the other end, right? I'm glad you're alive,
こんなこ
Kokoro.
とを言うのは亡くなった人に対して不謹慎かもしれないが
Might be disrespectful to the dead for me to say this,
でもこれは正直な俺の気持ちだ
but this is truly how I feel.
俺は心に出会えたことを感謝してる
I'm so glad that I met you,
お
Kokoro.
前がパートナーでよかったと思ってる
I often think of to myself, thank goodness that you're my partner.
もしもお前が他の誰かだったとしたらもっ
You're
と
in
とん
it.
でもないことになってたかもしれないし
If you were anyone else, who knows what might have happened by now.
俺の体はちょっと傷ついてしまったけど
Our body may have this one wound,
でも俺たちは一応こうしてちゃんと生きてるわけだし
but that the two of us are still alive right now.
それは多分お前のおかげで
It's most likely thanks to
お
you.
前が冷静に行動してくれてるからで
It's because you acted with a cool head.
あ何が言いたいんだろ
Well, what is it I'm trying to
うとに
say?
かく気を落とさないでくれ
Anyway, please don't lose
お
heart.
前は一人ぼっちなんかじゃないんだ
You're not
俺
alone.
はいつでもお前のそばにいる
I'm always right next to
直
you.
接触れ合うことはできないけど
We may not be able to make direct contact, but
俺とお前は一心同体みたいなものなんだから
it's like you and I share one body and one heart, so
だから俺がついてると思って安心してくれ
so think of me as being right next to you and be at ease.
それじゃあな
Bye then. Hit the stop button. Maybe it was because I got caught up in the moment, but I ended up saying some pretty embarrassing things. But I don't really feel like recording it over again. I thrust the voice recorder back into my pocket.
ねえサトルまだなの
Hey, Satoru, are you done, Yeet?
退屈なんですけど
I'm
一
bored.
緒になんかして遊ぼうよ
Let's play something. Uni's innocent voice reached me from the upper floor.
ああ今行くよ
Yeah, I'm coming. I answered and put a hand on the ladder. Boy, what an easygoing kid. Uni doesn't seem to be the least bit troubled, even in this kind of situation. Stranded on a snowy mountain in midwinter, unable to make contact with the rescue team, but even then, how can Uni... All of a sudden, I felt a shock as though lightning had struck me. I hurriedly jumped down from the ladder I'd been climbing.
どうしてこんな大事なことを忘れてたんだ
How could I have forgotten something so important? So many disoriented events kept happening around me that I forgot all about the most important things. Not just one or two inconsequential things either. Things that could decide whether I live or die. Mine went to full operation in an instant. I consider the transfer phenomenon. Uni's existence held the key to solving it. Not the Uni in Svea, but the Uni at the shelter cabin. Unless I guessed wrongly, the Uni here is from the year 2012. Most of them transferred only once, switching places with each other. But in spite of that, Uni acts totally indifferent to what's going on. I'm certain that he knows something vital. For now, I at least have to ask him why is Uni's body at Svea. I have to report this to Kokoro too. She asked me in the message back to Svea how two Unis can exist at the same time. Moreover, she questions the newspaper article as well. In other words, she's convinced that the world of Mount Alcacura and the world of Svea both exist in the year 2011. I avoided discussing it with my message last night, but I can't deceive Kokoro any longer. If what I have to tell her is going to upset her, then I've got to resolve it. I'll offer as much information as I can give. I started recording again.
心言い忘れたことがあった聞いてくれ
Kokoro, there's something I forgot to mention, so please
多分
listen.
すぐには信じてもらえないと思うけど、
You probably won't believe me right away, but
今心はこう思ってるんだよな。
this is what you think right now, right,
今
Kokoro?
年は2011年だって。
That this is the year
だけ
2011.
どそうじゃないんだ。
But that's not true.
心のいる世界は1年後の2012年なんだよ。
In the world you're in right now, it's 1 year later, the year 2012.
疑うんなら周りのやつに聞いてもらっても構わない。
If you don't believe me, you can ask the people around
で
you.
もこれは厳然たる事実なんだ。
But this is an undeniable
受け入れ
fact.
てほしい。
I'd like you to accept it as it is.
だからユニのことも。
That's why about Uni.
なになに
What?
僕のことがどうかした？
What about me?
あ、
Fibber? Without warning, Uni's head appeared from the hole in the ceiling. I jumped, dropping the voice recorder. I hurriedly picked it up. Right then, I was in the middle of recording. I pushed the stop button and shoved the VR into my pocket.
それ今のボイスレコーダー？
Wasn't that a voice recorder just
なん
now?
か録音してたの？
Were you recording something?
ああ、まあちょっとな。
Oh, well, I just...
わかった。
I got
心
it.
にメッセージを吹き込んでたんでしょ。
You were leaving a message for
当
Kokoro.
たり？
Am I right? How is this kid so sharp? Oh, no, maybe not. It might be just his godly intuition. I've been interrupted right in the middle, but how that's... Now it's come to this, there's nothing I can do. Let's settle things with Uni
Uni.
first.
話があるんだ。
Uni, we have to talk. Once I said that...
へえ。また質問？
Another question? He screwed up his face in dissatisfaction. I returned to the upper floor and walked to the middle of the room.
なに？話って。
What's it now? Still sporting a sour look, he came over to me. With both his arms swinging sluggishly, he stood before me.
お前スフィアって聞いたことないか？
Have you ever heard of Svea? I didn't have time for chit-chat. I decided to go with the frontal attack.
スフィア？
Sofia?
ブルガリアの首都のことだっけ？
Isn't that the capital of Bulgaria?
それはソフィアだろ。はぐらかさないでくれ。
That's Sophia, right? Please don't try to evade the question.
はぐらかしてなんかいないよ。
I wasn't really.
じゃあ質問を変えよ
Let me ask you something
う。
else.
俺と最初に会った時、お前なんて言ったか覚えてるか？
Do you remember what you told me when we first met?
最初って一昨日のことだよね。
First met, you mean the day before yesterday?
そんな前のこと忘れちゃったよ。
That was so long ago, I already forgotten about it.
そうか。じゃあ教えてやろ
I see, let me tell you
う。
then.
お前はあの時こう言ったんだ。
This is what you said.
ただこの人は忘れちゃってるだけなんだからって。
This person just forgot.
あれどういう意味だったんだ？
What did you mean by that?
どういう意味も何もないよ。
Nothing really.
ただ本当のことを言っただけで。
What I said was just the truth.
本当のこと？
The truth.
だってそうでしょ？
Well, wasn't it?
サトルは記憶喪失なんだから。
Because Satoru has amnesia.
待て、
Wait,
今なんて？
what did you just say?
サトルは記憶喪失なんだからって言いました。
I said because Satoru has amnesia.
どうしてそんなことを知ってる？
How do you know that?
俺はこの避難小屋では誰にも記憶喪失のことは言ってないはずだが。
I'm sure I never mentioned my amnesia to anyone in the shelter cabin. Eh. He found himself lost for words. His facial expression immediately froze. His eyes darted around the room. It seems I finally got
それに
him.
だ、
And that's not all.
仮にお前に記憶喪失のことを告げたとしても、それは後になってからのことだろ？
Even if I had talked to you about my amnesia, that would have come later, right?
あの時の俺たちはまだ初対面の段階だったんだ。
Back when you said that, we just met for the first time.
人格が変わってることにも誰も気づいていなかった。
And nobody had noticed that another personality had taken control of me.
俺自身でさえ何が起こったのか分かっていない状況で、
Even I hadn't realized what was going on myself.
なのに
So
なぜ
why?
どうして人格が変わったことに気づいた？
How did you know that Kokoro's personality had changed?
それが有機道悟であり、その悟が記憶喪失に陥っているとなぜ分かった？
How did you know that I was Yukido Satoru and that the same Satoru had amnesia?
それは えっと、
That's,
多分信じてもらえないと思うけど。
I don't think you'll believe me, but Uni wrote on the ground with the toe of his shoe as he answered.
僕には予知能力があるからだよ。
I have the power of precognition. No, you don't. Yes, you're right, I don't believe you.
予知能力？
Precognition?
ああ、そんなに驚くようなことじゃないんだ。
Yeah, it's not really something to be surprised
予
about.
知能力って言っても、本当にちょっと先の未来がぼんやりとわかるだけで。
I call it precognition, but I can only see vaguely into the near future. I looked deep into his eyes. The panic that had been there just a moment ago had completely vanished. I don't get it. I didn't get it. I couldn't tell what he was thinking anymore.
やっぱり信じてもらえないよね。
You don't believe me, do you? That's correct, I don't. There's nothing suspicious in the tone of his voice. Is it messing with me? Being very messed with. Because right now, it's not just me who would be thinking this. Every single person who would be playing this game would be thinking that Uni experienced the events in Sphere before, in the timeline of his consciousness, he's experiencing the events at the shelter cabin. So he's taking information from Sphere into the shelter cabin, if you get what I'm trying to say. And now the game is just like, haha. And the game is saying, well, he just says that he can see into the future a bit, right? But, and then you go, haha, no, I already have it figured out. But it's playing you. It's like you think you have it figured out. And so you're to not, but you don't. It's like playing into your pride. This could be true. That he's literally just seeing into the future in Sphere. And he actually has not gone there yet. In the timeline of his consciousness. But still, it felt like he wasn't telling the truth. Really, there was very little credibility to what he just said. There's no way I can believe in precognition. Well, you have gotten body swapping, so... What disturbed me most was the gap I felt between his tone and what he
予
said.
知能力か。なるほど
Precognition.
ね。
I see. There's no way I'd actually believe that, but for now, let's go along with
じゃあ
it.
証明してもらおうか。
Well then, will you prove it to me?
これから起こることを当ててみてくれ。
Try to predict what's going to happen after this. Yeah, but he can do that, though, because he's been told what will happen. Somehow.
未来のことなら何でもいい。
Anything regarding the future is okay.
一つだけでもいいから、実際に予知してみせてくれよ。
And with the phone, the whole satellite phone thing, he's the one who suggested doing it, so he made that future. Even just one event is fine, so show me what you've got. It's like, you're about to kill somebody. Uni answered, gently knocking his fist against his jaw.
いいよ。
Yeah, okay
そ
then.
れじゃあ手のひら出してみて。
Oh, this. Well then, would you give me your palm?
手のひらだよ。
The palm of your hand.
右でも左でもいいから見せて。
It doesn't matter if it's the right or left, so would you show me?
まさか、
No way.
手相を見るとか言い出さないよな。
You're not talking about palm reading, are you?
言い出すけど。
So what if I
そ
am?
れは予知でも何でもないだろ
You don't call that call that
う。
prediction.
ただの占いじゃないか。
Isn't that just fortune telling?
占いだって予知能力の一種じゃん。
Fortune telling is a kind of precognition.
もういいから見せてよ。
Come on already and show me. You need to grab my... Okay, Sabbath time. The feeling of the palm of my hand unexpectedly changed. And that wasn't the only change. Looks like we're in someone else's room here. Because the sheets are not green. I forgot which one has the brown sheets, though. My posture, my field of vision, and the smell in the air had all changed in a flash like magic. A transfer. I instantly realized it. However, I couldn't understand the state of my body so instantly. I gradually confirmed everything around me. First off, I was in a private room at Svea. My body was on the bed, lying on its side in the fetal position. I was looking toward the window. Through it, the blue sky outside was visible. and in one of my hands, I felt another's palm. In other words, I was lying on a bed holding the hands with someone. Suddenly, a faint but sweet scent tickled my nose. I knew that fragrance from somewhere. No way. I turned over mechanically like a clockwork doll, and my body hit something. There, a few centimeters from my nose, was Satori's face. I would forget how this happened. Okay, no way. I jumped back in surprise. Hotori's arm fell to the bed with a thud.
眠ってるのか？
She's asleep? Just to be sure, I prodded her cheek. She scratched the place I poked with the tip of one finger. Letting out a fake grumble, she turned over in her sleep. With her eyes still closed, she chuckled. Was she dreaming? At any rate, she didn't seem to be suffering. Before the last transfer, she was in quite a state. I don't know what happened after that, but perhaps she blacked out and was carried to her room. We were in Hotori's room. Nothing strange about her being asleep in here. But me? Why is my body in her room? Moreover, we were holding hands, lying on the bed together. Just what in the world was Kokoro doing right before I came here? Every single time I transfer, it's always the same question. I seriously fed up with it, and yet I can't help but think about it. Just to be on the safe side, I checked over our clothes. Nothing out of place. Fair enough. Kokoro's consciousness was female, so even if she entered a man's body, she surely wouldn't do such a thing. How would you know? But wait, if Kokoro happened to have other tastes, then it would be a totally different story. Anyway, I realized I was relieved that nothing had happened. From the looks of her calm, sleeping face, it seemed I wouldn't have to worry about Hotori. Kokoro was probably just there because of Hotori's fit. She'd stayed by her side. As a result, they ended up falling asleep together, but given that Kokoro is a woman, there's nothing strange about it. I somehow felt that I had caught a glimpse of Kokoro's kindness. Well then. I'd love to gaze at Hotori's sleeping face forever, but I don't have time right now. The time after a transfer is always busy. I silently stepped toward the exit, so as not to wake Hotori. I returned to my room. I took the wristwatch out of my pocket and confirmed the time. 2:30 p.m. If I estimate that I stayed with Hotori for 5 minutes, the transfer occurred at 2:25 p.m. The previous transfer was at 1:52 p.m. Therefore, I was at Mount Agakura for...
あれ？また33分間だ。
Finally, somebody notices. 33 minutes again. The transfer phenomenon has a pattern to it, although I still can't be sure. I'm not checking the time immediately after the transfer, so numbers in and of themselves aren't that trustworthy. Well, I'll think it over more carefully later. Next, I checked to see if there were any messages. I picked up the notepad. No reply from Kokoro, which is to say, except for the time that she made the drawing. I never received a proper response from Kokoro. Does she not like writing? But she could just talk into the voice recorder at the shelter cabin instead, so it can't be for such a simple
あ
reason.
まりにもいろんなことがありすぎて、メッセージを残してる時間なんてないのかもしれないな。
Maybe too many things are happening and she doesn't want to have time to leave a message? I muttered, persuading myself. The blank notepad in my hand. I stared at it until I felt dizzy, but no words materialized. I tossed it onto the desk and lay down on the bed. I thought about the uni of Mount Akakura. In the end, I had missed another chance to ask
予
him.
知能力ね。
Precognition, huh? Could it be true? Even though the rational part of me wants to deny it to the bitter end. Another part of me wonders if it's really okay for me to dismiss it so easily. I don't believe him, but I also somehow feel as though I could. I'm at a stalemate. I cursed my insentiveness. In any case, I'll put the problem with Uni on hold. The next time I transfer, I'll have to talk to him again. Leaving it for later, putting it on hold, delaying. I kind of feel like I'm procrastinating over an awful lot of things. I'm not making any progress. Which is the equivalence of saying that I haven't obtained any new information. Interesting. Ooh-ah. I screamed, furiously scratching at my head. I jumped off the bed
考
in a
えなきゃ
rage.
ならないことが多すぎるんだよ
There are too many damn things, many things to think
バ
about.
カ
Baka!
バカバカバカ
Baka, baka, baka. I kicked the desk with all my might. My toes hurt like hell. In the end, night came without me making any new progress at all. Wow, that was a stall. We got the pacing, okay. No transfers had occurred since then either. The matters of Uni and Hotori were still running through my head. And after that I began to worry about Lin and Kokoro. Furthermore, the mysterious transference phenomenon that was tormenting both me and Kokoro. Just what was this phenomenon? What did it all mean? How had the two of us become involved in it? Is it a prank fate decided to play on us, or maybe God's practical joke? Without one clue about my current situation, I had unintentionally begun to cling to these illogical, mystical thoughts. Doing what that was kind of like taking the easy way out, but I felt like if I didn't, my brain cells would explode and gush out through my pores. Right now, my head was burning up from all the confusion. In an attempt to cool it down somehow, I was currently ayahuasca matter. Outside the terrace, exposing my body to the numbing chill of the midwinter wind. The moon was floating high in the eastern sky. It was waning gibbous moon. Does that make today the 19th? Over half its visible surface was illuminated. The moon had only just risen. Somehow I felt very relaxed, bathing in the pale moonlight. Okay, I'm going to say that the 14th... The 14th shelter corresponds to 19th in Sphere. That might matter. All my worldly thoughts were cleared away, and the inside of my head became perfectly clear. I felt like all my troubles were being sucked away. Standing on the terrace, I continued to absent-mindedly gaze up at the moon. The waning moon shone down its divine radiance, drifting in an infinite world. It looked like an orb being born across the sky on the waves. And just as I had that thought,
何やってるの？
what are you up to? A voice came from behind me. Turning around, I saw
内海さん
Utsumi-san.
こんなところにずっといると風邪ひくわよ。
You'll catch a cold if you stay outside for too long, you know.
どうしたの？何か悩み事でも？
What's wrong? Is something bothering
い
you?
やいいんだ
No, I'm fine. Trying to distract her, I favored her with a light
それよ
smile.
り内海さんはどうしてここに
More importantly, Utsumi-san, why are you here?
ああ、実はね、
You see,
あの液体の成分が判明したのよ。
I've identified the composition of that liquid.
液体って例のチーズにかけられてた
Liquid, you mean the stuff that was on the cheese?
そう。
That's right.
だから、それを教えてあげようと思って。
So I thought I'd come and tell you. What, do you have like a lab rat you used? Utsumi rested her back against the railing of the terrace and crossed her arms over her chest. She combed her fingers through her silvery hair. Shining in the moonlight, her hair held a dreamlike radiance.
結論から言ってしまうけど、
I'll start with the results,
あの
but
液体は
it wasn't
毒物で
poison.
はなかったわ。
It wasn't poison. She said, staring at me firmly.
そんな
What? That can't
じゃあ
be.
どうしてあのネズミは
Then why did the rat?
待って、最後まで聞いて。
Wait, let me explain, okay?
私が言ったのは、注意事項を守って服用する分には有害ではないという意味。
What I meant was, it isn't harmful if taken as
けれ
recommended.
ど、その禁忌を破れば、たちまち猛毒に変わる。
However, if you defy those rules, it becomes a deadly poison.
そういう薬品だったのよ。
It's that kind of chemical.
具体的にはどんな薬だったんだ
More specifically, what kind of medicine is it?
魔を阻害剤。それがあの液体の名前。
An MAO inhibitor. That's what it's called.
魔を阻害剤
Guess I'm pronouncing it Mao inhibitor.
そう。
Yes, that's right.
ここからはちょっと難しくなるから、順を追って説明するわね。
It might get a little complicated from here on out, so I'll go in order, okay?
まず、魔を阻害剤とはどんな作用を持つ薬なのか。
Firstly, as to the properties of the MAO inhibitor,
MAO っていうのはモノアミンオキシダーゼの略。
MAO is short for monoamine oxidase.
モノアミン酸化酵素のことなの。
A monoamine oxidation
だ
enzyme.
からマオ阻害剤というのは文字通り体内にあるモノアミン酸化酵素の働きを阻害する薬品ってこと。
As the name suggests, the MAO inhibitor literally works to inhibit the oxidation of monoamines inside the body.
でこのモノアミン酸化酵素っていうのはね、
And this monoamine oxidation itself
体内に蓄積されると有害になる物質を速やかに代謝させる機能を持ってるの。
Yeah, you're saying it converts it to ammonia and then that to not urethra, urea. Okay, serves the function of swiftly metabolizing harmful substances accumulated in the body.
例えばチラミンという物質とか
For example, something like the substance tyramine.
モノアミン酸化酵素は食べ物の中に含まれるチラミンも分解してくれるのよ。
Monoamine oxidation enzyme is responsible for the breakdown of the tyramine content found in food as
とこ
well.
ろでこのチラミンは交感神経を刺激する作用を持っている。
By the way, this tyramine substance is known to cause stimulation of the sympathetic nervous
交
system.
感神経っていうのは自律神経のうちの一つで、
The sympathetic nervous system is one of the components of the automatic nervous system, the regulation of blood pressure and blood sugar levels.
血圧や血糖値を高めたり全身の血管を収縮させて血液を筋肉や脳に集めたり、そういった機能を司ってるの。
Blood vessel constriction throughout the body and the accumulation of blood in the brain and muscles are all controlled by the sympathetic nervous
い
system.
い？ここまでまとめるわよ。
Did you get all that? Because here comes the important
マオ
part.
阻害剤はモノアミン酸化酵素の働きを抑制する。
The MAO inhibitor works to suppress the monoamine oxidation
モ
enzyme.
ノアミン酸化酵素はチラミンを分解してくれる。
The monoamine oxidation enzyme is responsible for breaking down
チラ
tyramine.
ミンは交感神経を刺激する。
Tyramine causes stimulation of the sympathetic nerves.
交感神経は血圧を制御する。
The sympathetic nerves control blood
つ
pressure.
まりマオ阻害剤を摂取することによって
So if the MAO inhibitor is
分かった
taken,
よ。もう十分だ。
then it drops your blood pressure. Which, yes, I understand that's enough
要する
explaining.
にこういうことだろ。
So in short, it's like this,
モノア
right?
ミン酸化酵素がチラミンを分解してくれないがために交感神経は過剰に刺激され血圧が急激に上昇する。
Oh, it constricts. Oh, okay. If the monoamine oxidation enzyme is prevented from breaking down tyramine, the sympathetic nervous system gets overstimulated and blood pressure rises.
さすが勇気堂くんね。飲み込みが早いわ。
So the opposite. Just as expected, Yukito-kun, you're a fast
じ
learner.
ゃあ血圧が極度に上昇するとどんな症状が現れるかわかる？
Did you know the symptoms that accompany extreme elevation of blood pressure?
そうだな。
You go blind?
お
Let's
そら
see.
く脳内の血管が破裂して
Most likely the blood vessels in your brain will rupture.
最悪の場合は死に至るとか。
And in the worst case scenario, death, I think. Itsumi not deeply before continuing.
他にも肺浮腫や循環性虚脱、心筋梗塞、その他さまざまな高血圧症を併発する恐れがあるの。
Other symptoms include pulmonary edema, circulatory collapse, heart attacks, and many other complications stemming from hypertension.
でもちょっと待ってくれ内海さ
But please hold on a minute,
ん。モノア
Itsumi-san.
ミン酸化酵素っていうのは初めから体内にあるものなんだろ。
The monoamine oxidation enzyme is naturally present in the body, isn't
で
it?
もチラミンの方は
Then what about
いい
tyramine?
ところに気がついたわね。
Good job on noticing.
私最初にこう言ったでしょ。
I said so from the beginning, didn't
マオ
I?
阻害剤は注意事項を守って服用する分には有害ではないって。
The MAO inhibitor isn't harmful if taken as
そ
recommended.
の注意事項っていうのは
One of those recommendations
もしか
is
してチラミンを含有する食品と一緒に摂取してはならない。
do
そういう
not
ことか。
do not take with any food containing tyramine, right?
ええ、
Yes.
だから逆に言えば
That's why
チ
conversely,
ラミンが体内に残留していない状態だったらいくらマオ阻害剤を飲んだところでそれは無害ってことになるわ。
If you're in a situation where there is no tyramine present in your body, no matter how much of the MAO inhibitor you drank, it would be completely harmless.
チラミンは遅くとも48時間も経てば体の中からは完全に消えてしまう。
Tyramine will completely disappear from the body after 48 hours at the
モ
latest.
ノアミン酸化酵素の作用によってね。
Because of the monoamine oxidation
つ
enzyme.
まり48時間以内にチラミンを含有する食品を口にしていなければマオ阻害剤は悪影響を及ぼさないってこと。
In other words, if you don't eat any food that contains tyramine for 48 hours, the MAO inhibitor won't have any negative
な
effects.
るほど。
I see.
でチラミンって物質は一体どんな食べ物の中に？
Then what kind of foods contain tyramine? And she's going to say cheese, right?
それこそ数えきれないほどあるわ。
Too many to count,
チョ
really.
コレート、バナナ、イチジク、レーズン、レバー、ニシン、タラコ、スジコ、ワイン、ビール、コーヒー。
Anything that has complete protein is going to contain it because it's one of the, I don't know if it's an essential amino, but it's one of the aminos. So, chocolate, bananas, figs, raisins, liver, herring, pollack, roe, salmon roe, wine, beer, coffee.
それからヨーグルトやバターやチーズといった乳製品の中にも。
And then there are dairy products such as yogurt, butter, and cheese as well. Cheese.
そう、チーズ。
Yes, cheese.
そうか。だからあのネズミはあんな風に苦しんで。
I see. So that's why the rat was suffering like
お
that.
そらく液体を持った人物は初めからそのことを知ってたんだと思うわ。
The person who added it most likely knew what would happen.
そうでなければマオ阻害剤とチーズを一緒に与えるなんて発想出てくるはずがないもの。
If not, there's no way you'd ever combine the MAO inhibitor and
っ
cheese.
てことはそいつは最初からネズミを殺す目的で？
Which means that their goal from the start was to kill the rat.
多分ね。
Most likely. I began to ponder, tapping my finger against my temple. Was Satori the one who spread the MAO inhibitor on the cheese after all? I simply relieved it from its pain. It was in agony on the kitchen floor. Isn't taking away pain and suffering like that the same as what a doctor does? Thinking about Hotori also only made me feel depressed. Pregnant girl. Even though it had been sunny today, my body was frozen to the core from staying outside too long. Shivering, I entered the living area. The interior was enveloped in darkness. Utsumi had already left, and I too was heading to my room. The only one remaining was Hotori.
かごめかごめかごの中の鳥はいついつでやる夜明けの晩につると亀がすべった後ろの正面誰
She was all by herself humming that song, sitting right against the window basking in the moonlight. How long had she been sitting there? Did she hear the conversation between me and Utsumi? Yes. I approached Tori, unsteadily as though lured toward her. But what should I ask her about? I couldn't just ask her about the MAO inhibitor straight out. When I pressed her about it this afternoon, Tori became extremely agitated. She was mentally ill. I thought it would be dangerous to excessively stimulate her for no good reason. And besides, what good would come from asking her about the MAO inhibitor? It wouldn't help anything even if I did confirm that Hotori's the one who did it. She'd beaten that rat to death. What's more, she'd already admitted to it of her own free will. Wasn't that more than enough? I stood beside Hotori thinking that. And then...
ねえサトル
Hey, Satoru. Before I could open my mouth, Hotori began to talk instead. However, her eyes didn't turn to face me. She was absent-mindedly gazing into the darkness outside. Her body had the appearance of a ghost in the pale moonlight.
サトルはかごめ歌にどんな意味が込められてるのか知って
Do you
る
know the hidden meaning behind the Kagome song, Satoru?
どうしたんだよ突然。
Why do you ask all of a sudden?
別に
No reason.
ただ知ってるかなと思って
I was just wondering if you knew. Say you don't know. I was gonna say I don't know it, because he's gonna explain it either way.
かごめ歌の意味か。
The meaning of the Kagome song, huh?
残念ながら知らないな。
Unfortunately, I don't.
サトルってば博学だと思ってたのに、こんなことも知らないんだ。
I thought you were pretty scholarly, Satoru, but you don't even know something like this. Well, I'm not Japanese.
こんなことだから知らないんだけどな。
Hey, it's because it's something like this that I don't know.
カゴメ歌のカゴメっていうのはね、
The meaning of the kagome and the kagome
お
song.
腹の大きな女性のことを表してるの。
It's talking about a woman with a great big belly.
身ごもった女と書いて、カゴメ。
A woman who uses her body as a cage, kago, written as cage woman, kagome. Yeah, at least I know that this means woman. I guess this means cage. I did not know that. It was this font. It's really hard to figure out. Like, it's really blurred.
つまり、妊婦のこと。
In other words, a pregnant woman.
その次の歌詞。カゴの中の鳥はいついつである。
The next verse, the bird within the cage, when, oh, when will you come out?
これはね、お腹の中にいる赤ん坊がいつ生まれてくるかっていう意味なんだ。
Here, you're asking when the baby will be born.
さらに、夜明けの晩。
And then there's in the evening, lit by the dawn, Yeko no ban.
晩っていうのは、日編の晩のことじゃなくて、女編の晩。
Bond doesn't refer to the evening after day, but the bond you write together with the character for woman to bear a child.
分娩の弁の字のことを示してるの。
It's referring to the character bin in bunbin, childbirth.
じゃあその次の鶴と亀が滑ったっていうのは？
What about the next verse? The crane and the turtle slipped and fell. What does that mean?
鶴と亀はおめでたいものの象徴でしょ？
The crane and the turtle are symbols of celebration, right?
それが滑ったってことは、
For them to slip, that would mean
あとは言わなくてもわかるよね。
you understand the rest even without saying, don't you? I began to think. Kago may refer to a woman who is using her body as a cage. The bird probably refers to the baby, and the lyrics are asking, when will the baby be born? The answer immediately follows, the birth will happen near dawn. However, the joyful celebration had slipped and flowed away.
気づいたみたいね。
Look like you figured it out, huh? Stillbirth or death by hemorrhage. Vittori's eyes never strayed from the window. What was she sleepingly looking at? As time passed, the darkness outside deepened even
で
further.
もちょっと待ってくれ、ほとり。
But wait a second,
気
Hottori.
づいたと言っても全てを理解したわけじゃない。
It's kind of like, stuff like how old was she? 3,000, 2,000 years? How old was the nun? The doctor and the nurse? The Ameri joke about the ghost, right? Like all of Coco's parables, right? All her little illustrations. I think I hit the mic with my wrist. Hopefully that didn't come out in the audio. They were all the plot, right? So we have death, some sort of death in childbirth. We know that Utsumi has children. But is someone... I mean, Hotori doesn't look pregnant. It'd be metaphorical, though. There's some metaphor here. Even though I figured that out, I still doesn't mean that I understand everything.
最後の歌詞の意味、
The meaning of the last verse.
後ろの正面っていうのは一体？
What does who's that behind you mean?
さあ、
Who knows? It just tacked on there to use it as the game, to use it for the game, right?
それは私にもわかんないんだ。
I don't know either.
本当に。誰なんだろうね。
Hopefully when I get down to the end of this game, I'll understand what it means. I mean, that's the person who pushed him off the clock tower was behind him.
後ろの正面に。
The one who's there behind you, I mean. Not saying anything more than that, Otori returned to her room. But even so, why did Hotori suddenly begin talking about the Kagome song? Judging from her tone, it didn't feel like I was just idle chit
カ
chat.
ゴメ歌か。
The Kagome song, huh? Somehow it felt like the truth about her was hidden within that song. The living area had become devoid of light. It got completely wrapped up in my own thoughts there in the darkness. It didn't seem like a very productive way to pass the time. If I had the time to do stuff like this, I should get moving instead. Thinking that, I began to wonder where to go. Since the sun had set, I talked to both Utsumi and Hotori, which left Uni. My feet automatically began to take me there. Star's Prince. Okay, upon opening the door, I saw Uni standing in front of the fridge with the glass cup tilted towards his mouth. There was mineral water in it. It looked like he had taken a drink.
どうしたのサトル？
What is it, Satoru? Uni asked, placing an empty glass on the desk. Even though he'd asked what is it, I didn't have a reply ready. There wasn't anything in particular I wanted to ask him. After all, the consciousness of the Uni here right now belonged to the Uni of 2011. Of course, it would be a different story if it was the Uni of the shelter cabin. I had a mountain of questions for him. However, no matter what I asked this Uni of the past, I didn't think his answers would have much significance. No, but it's not like I can say that was for sure, isn't it? Is it? I wasn't like I'd found any concrete evidence that Uni at Svea was really the Uni of 2011.
なあユニ、
Hey, Uni.
つかぬことを聞くけど、
This is kind of abrupt, but I tried throwing out a question like this in order to
今
confirm
年っ
it.
て何年だったっけ？
What year is it again?
何言っちゃってんだよサトル。
What are you saying, Satoru? Wonder if he's going to say 2011 or he's going to twist this into a crazy pretzel.
そんなことも忘れちゃったの？
Did you forget that
う
too?
ん、まあそう思ってもらっても構わない。
Oh, well, I don't mind if you think of it like that.
で、何年なんだ？何年だと思う？
So, what year is it? What year do you think it is?
もうしょうがないな。
Geez, you're
教
hopeless.
えてあげるからちゃんとメモっといてよ。
I'll tell you, so make sure you write it down somewhere, okay?
今年は
It's currently...
2011年だよ。
Okay, so nothing too weird. It's what we expect him to answer with. The year 2011.
そうか。そうだったな。
I see. That's
あり
right.
がとう。
Thanks. Saying that, I left Uni's room. I guessed right after all. It's the year 2012 here in Svea, but in spite of that, Uni had just told me it was the year 2011. Could there be any better evidence than this? Uni had transferred just once, jumping through time. But his testimony alone wasn't enough. Just to be sure, I felt it necessary to get the testimony of a third party as well. If you ask what kind of testimony I was after...
なあ内海さん、
Hey, Utsumi-san.
あら、どうしたのユキドくん？
What's wrong, Yukido-kun?
実はちょっと聞きたいことがあって。
Well, the truth is, there's something I wanted to ask you.
何？
What is
今
it?
は西暦何年だったっけ？
What year is it now?
2012年よ。
It's 2012. Utsumi answered without the slightest hesitation. My conviction had become even firmer. If my memory matched with the third party's testimony, it was good enough to support my thinking in regard to it being the year 2012 in Svea. However, I'm convinced that the Uni here right now is from 1 year in the past. It's a definite possibility. On January 11, 2011, Uni was a passenger on flight HAL 18, had fallen onto Mount Akakura, and by some twist of fate ended up at this facility. That said, he hadn't transferred over and over again like Kokoro and I. He had only changed places once. The past Uni's consciousness had gotten stuck in the future Uni's body, and vice versa. Why did the transfer only happen once for Uni? I groped along the wall until I found the light switch and flipped it on. The living area was empty. My body sank deep into the sofa and I kicked my feet up onto the table. No matter how much I thought about it, Uni, there'd be no end to it. Now I had even more things to ask him the next time I was at the shelter cabin. He said that he had the power of precognition, but that had to be a lie.
ユニのやつめ。
That darn Uni. I don't know whether he'd heard my mutterings or not, but... The door to his room opened and Uni suddenly popped out from behind it.
サトルサトル
Satoru! He rushed over to me, calling out in a cheerful voice. He hopped up onto the sofa. And at that instant, my consciousness was suddenly yanked away. So she ends up waking right up to Uni, and he's talking about the radio and it's broken, right? I was on a bed at the shelter cabin, with my body lying down under some blankets. No, rather than my body, I guess I ought to say Kokoro's body. I immediately checked the time. The wristwatch on my right hand indicated 10:15 p.m. I got up and walked over to the center of the cabin. I looked all around it, turning in a circle. Yomogi was squatting in front of the stove, throwing wood onto the fire. Up on the top bunk, Lynn was asleep with her back to us. The most vital survivor, Uni, was nowhere to be seen. Yes, he's the most vital. This time I'll get the truth out of him no matter what. Could he be down in the storeroom? I tried asking
なあ
Yomogi.
おっさ
Hey, old man. When I called out to him, Yomogi rebuked me as he turned around.
いい加減そのおっさんっていうのやめてもらえないかな、ユキド君。
I sure wish you'd stop calling me old man all the time, Yukido-kun. Eh?
ユキド君だろ。
You're Yukido-kun, aren't you?
さすがに話し方で区別がつくようになったよ。
It's easy to tell the two of you apart from the way you speak. Well, this certainly is a welcome development. Now I can finally skip the explanation every
そう
time.
いえば冬川さんが何か録音してたみたいだよ。
Which reminds me, it looks like Fuyukawa-san recorded
ボイス
something
レコーダーに。
on the voice recorder.
心が
Kokoro did.
Oh.
Yeah.
君は彼女は倉庫にいたから内容までは分からなかったけどね。
But since she was down in the storeroom, I don't know what it's about.
ブツブツ何かつぶやいてたからおそらく。
She was whispering something, so I just figured.
そうかありがとう
I see, thanks a lot. I decided to immediately go listen to the voice recorder. Sitting in the corner of the room, I pressed the playback button. I waited for Kokoro's voice to flow from the device and into my ears.
心です。
This is Kokoro.
メッセージ聞きました。
I listened to your
ど
message.
うして今年が2012年だなんて言うの？
Why'd you say this was the year 2012?
今年は2011年だよ。
It's the year 2011.
勘違いなんてあなたらしくない。
It's not like you to be mistaken.
ちょっと休んだら？
Maybe you should rest for a bit?
みんなにも聞いてみたけど、今年は2011年だって言ってた。
I asked everyone, and they all said it was the year 2011 too.
繰り返すけど、今年は絶対2011年だよ。
I
間
repeat,
違いありません。
this is the year 2011. There's no mistaking it. She paused for a moment, then continued.
追伸、
P.S.
腕時計、外すのやめてよね。
Quit taking off my wristwatch, okay?
腕時計は、腕にはめるから腕時計って言うんだから。
A wristwatch is called a wristwatch because you wear it on your wrist. The content itself didn't come as much as of a surprise. The fact that Kokoro is convinced that it's the year 2011 is understandable, of course. Because in the shelter cabin, saying it was the year 2011 is correct no matter how you look at it. She said I asked everyone, but that everyone was probably just the other refugees in the shelter cabin. They said it was the year 2011, again a reasonable statement. Seems like what I tried to say didn't come across very well. My last message had been cut short due to Uni's unexpected intrusion, too. I ended up not being able to tell her everything. The world you're in right now is 1 year later, the year 2012. That was pretty much what I'd said. It's only natural for her to misunderstand. I decided to reply to her at once. I pushed the record button and raised the mic to begin speaking.
サトルだ
This is
まずは
Satoru.
どうでもいいことから話す
First, the least important
君の
point.
要望はできるだけ聞くつもりだ
I intend to listen to your requests as much as possible.
俺たちはパートナーだからな信頼関係が大事だと思っている
Since we're partners, I think mutual trust is important.
だがしかしだ
But however,
腕時計をつけろという要望だけは受け入れるわけにはいかない
your demand that I keep your wristwatch on, I just can't accept it.
腕に何かついてるとなんだか落ち着かないんだよ
Having something on my arm just irritates me for some reason.
ちなみに俺はブレスレットとかもダメ
By the way, it's the same with bracelets and the like.
そもそもだな腕に時計をはめるという習慣自体に俺は疑問を感じるね
In the first place, I have a problem with the custom of wearing wristwatches itself.
紳士というのは懐中時計を持ってるものだろ
Shouldn't a gentleman carry a pocket watch?
まあ懐中時計のデザインは気に入ったものがないし機能的に劣るんでやむなく腕時計を持ち歩いてるんだが
I don't really like their design, and they don't keep time that well, so I reluctantly carry around a wristwatch, but
ジェントルマンの心意気は大事にしたいと思わないか
don't you think the spirit of a gentleman is something to be cherished?
腕時計協会に訴えられてもこの気持ちは変わらない
Even if I were to be sued by the wristwatch society, these feelings will never change.
そんなわけで腕時計をつけろという要望については却下させてもらうよ
In conclusion, request to keep wristwatch on denied. After recording that, I made a point to defiantly take the wristwatch off. This is war. This time I'm going to hide it where you'll never be able to find it. I approach
おっ
Yomogi.
さん、ちょっとこれ預かっててもらえないか。
Would you hold on to this for a while, old man? Without waiting for an answer, I shoved the wristwatch into his pocket.
預かるって
Hold on to it.
いいから何も聞かずに頼むよ。
Here, I'm entrusting this to you, so don't ask any questions.
大事な時計なんだ。
It's an important
な
wristwatch.
くしたら困るからおっさんに。
Make sure you don't lose it, old man. Yomogi tilted his head to the side. I flashed him a thumbs up and left the cabin. I left so that, for now, Yomogi wouldn't ask too many questions. Not that it would really matter if he did, but having to explain everything would be a pain. I sat down outside the cabin door and resumed recording.
さて、本題に入ろ
Let's get to the main
う。
point.
前回の続きだ。
Continuing from last time,
今年が何年かという問題について。
about the question, what year is it?
俺は前のメッセージでこう言ったよな。
You remember what I said in the previous message, right?
心のいる世界は1年後の2012年なんだって。
The world you're in right now is 1 year later, the year 2012.
でもそれは正確な言い方じゃなかった。
However, that wasn't the most accurate way to put it.
あの時は気が動転してて忘れちまってたんだよ。
That time I lost my head, I forgot.
心がボイスレコーダーを聞くことのできる場所はこの避難小屋に限られているって。
The place where Kokoro can listen to the voice is restricted to just the shelter cabin.
そんな当たり前のことに気づかなかったんだ。
I didn't realize that simple truth.
あの時俺の言った心のいる世界とは避難小屋のことを言ったんじゃない。
That time, by the world where Kokoro is, I didn't mean the shelter cabin.
今現在ここにいる俺を基準としての心のいる世界。
It's the world where Kokoro is from the viewpoint of me who is here now.
つまりスフィアのことを言ったんだ。
Meaning, in short, Sphere.
わかるか。
Don't you get it?
単刀直入に言うとこういうことになる。
Without beating around the bush, it's like
ス
this.
フィアのある世界が2012年、避難小屋のある世界が2011年。
In the world of Sphere, it's 2012. In the world of shelter cabin, it's 2011.
俺と心の意識は空間を移動すると同時に時間も
Our consciousnesses are jumping not only through
飛び
space,
越えてるんだ。
but also through time.
俺たちが陥っているのは単なる人格交換現象じゃない。
What we're trapped in isn't a mere personality exchange phenomenon.
人格交換とさらに時間跳躍が加わった極めて特殊な転移現象なんだよ。
Along with the personality exchange, there is also a time jump, an extremely unique transfer phenomenon.
と言ってもお前はきっと信じてくれないだろうな。
I say this, but I guess you probably won't believe me.
どう説明すればいいんだろ
How should I explain
う。
it?
とにかくこれは事実なんだ。
At any rate, this is the
ス
truth.
フィアは2012年、避難小屋は2011年。
It's 2012 in Sphere and 2011 in the shelter cabin.
俺と心は2つの異なった時間、空間、肉体の間をぐるぐるぐるぐると入れ替わり続けてるんだ。
Kokoro and I keep shifting back and forth, which I assume is what guru guru means, between two different bodies, places, and times.
ああ、今お前はどうしてそんなことが断言できるんだってそう思ったな。
Oh, just now you must be thinking, how can you say this with such certainty?
答えは簡単だ。
The answer is simple.
俺が2012年の住人だからだよ。
Because I live in the year
つ
2012.
まり俺はお前にとっては未来の人間ということになる。
That is to say, I'm a person from the future.
だから俺はこの避難小屋が2011年だってことを知ってるんだ。
That's why I even know about the shelter cabin being in 2011.
18便が墜落したのは俺にとっては去年のことだから。
The crash of Flight 18 for me happened last year.
これでもまだ信じてもらえないかな。
You still can't believe it?
仕方がない。
Can't be helped.
それじゃあユニのことを教えよ
Well, then I'll tell you about
う。
Uni.
昨日のスフィアでのメッセージにお前はこう書いたよな。
In the message at Sphere yesterday, you wrote this,
だっ
right?
てそうじゃなければユニが同時に2人も存在することを説明できないって。
Because if that isn't so, I can't explain how Uni could exist as two people at the same time.
同時に
At the same time.
心はそう書いた。
That's what you
で
wrote.
もな、本当は同時なんかじゃないんだ。
But you know what? They really aren't the same.
片方のユニは2011年のユニ、
One Uni is the Uni from the year 2011.
もう片方のユニは2012年のユニなんだよ。
The other one is Uni of the year
時
2012.
間軸上の異なったポイントに同一人物がいたとしても別に不思議ではないだろ
Even if the very same person exists in different points on the time axis, it's not particularly mysterious, don't you think?
うっていうか当たり前のことだよな。
Or rather, isn't it natural?
未来にも過去にもユニがいるのは当然のことだ。
Both in the future and the past, Uni being there is
で
normal.
もな、ここからが一筋縄ではいかないんだが、
But you know, from now on, it won't be so straightforward. And just then, I was about to go on. The moon floating in the eastern sky above. Its shape caught my eye.
すまない。
Sorry, Kokoro. It's the same shape.
なんというか、今、俺は。
How should I put it? I now.
このことは後で教えるよ。
No, I'll tell you later.
ひとまずメッセージは以上だ。
For now, that's it.
ああ、待った。
I'll wait.
大事なことを伝え忘れるところだった。
I was about to forget something
い
important.
いか、心。
Okay, Kokoro.
スフィアでは、今後一切食べ物を口にしないでくれ。
At Sphia, from now on, don't eat any of the
これ
food.
はお願いじゃない。
This is not a request.
言い方は悪いけど、命令だ。
This isn't the best way to say it, but it's an order.
詳しいことは今度説明する。
I'll explain the details next time.
とにかく、一口でも何かを食べたら、
Anyway, if you take a single bite of anything,
命はないと思ってくれ。
then consider your life over.
じゃあ、頼んだぞ。
I'm counting on you. Falling. I stopped recording. The last edition was, of course, because I was concerned about the Mao inhibitor. Maybe the culprit is planning on getting me to ingest it using some kind of underhand method. I can't say for sure that it's not a possibility. Then again, I don't have time to explain to Kokoro about the Mao inhibitor, the monoamine oxidase, and tyramine. I can't list all the foods that she can't eat either. To begin with, it's not like I know whether any given food contains tyramine or not. That's why I said don't eat anything. As long as my body didn't eat anything in the next 48 hours, the Mao inhibitor could do no harm. I hope Tsumi wasn't mistaken. I had etched her every word deep into my mind. Now then, that aside... Isomorphism. Wow, that's a big... I actually know what that word means, and it's a function that maps all elements of one group onto the other one. That where it's like one-to-one and onto, so it's like surjective and ejective. And if A composed with B is C, then the function of A composed with the function of B is the function of C. So it preserves the law of composition. That's what isomorphism is, if you're wondering. But yeah, he has to comment on why the moon's the same. Why is the weather lining up? If they're happening in different years or even if different months within the same year, the moon and the weather shouldn't line up. Which again is that whole like, oh, I don't want to say this because spoilers for another game. Recreation theory, but actually in a facility designed to mimic not the original facility, like in a fake facility recreation. Which is just another level. Unlike Ever 17, where they did it in the actual Lamu again. They didn't make like a fake Lamu. Before anything else, the moon. The shape of the moon. Just what the hell does this mean? What's the saying? That's the same waning gibbous moon I saw before, isn't it? It went without saying that I'd seen it at Svea. But this was the shelter cabin. How can it be exactly the same? According to the lunar cycle, there is no way the moon could be in the same phase this year as it was this time last year. Moreover, even if its position in the sky was more or less the same, the eastern sky, it was rising somewhat higher than before, and was moving along a southward orbit, but it was still pretty much exactly the same place.
バカな。
Impossible. Well, we know they meet in the end, and we know they're on an island. So, what's left is how how... Why do they have the rest of the mountain there sometimes?
なんでこんなことが。
How could this be? I began to walk as though guided by the moonlight. The light hit the white field of snow, creating a dreamlike veil of mist across it. The distant horizon was azure with a congregation of free-floating souls. Like a congregation of free-floating souls. The mysterious quality of the scene before me almost had me convinced that I had stepped into a dream world. I continued to staggering progress forward. Entranced, my mind was a blank. As though my mental consciousness, I held fast to that single thought as I pushed forward. The phases of the moon at Mount Akakura and Asogi Island were the same. If that is true, it's Asogi. If that is true, then it couldn't be 2011 at Mount Akakura, but the year 2012, just like at Asogi Island. No, that was impossible. Then how would you explain Yomogi and the rest? They should have died a year ago. How could dead people be alive in the year 2012? Within my dim consciousness was that thought alone. In front of me shone a blue-white orb. And how could Uni now be in the same place at the different place at the same time again? You recreate that problem. In front of me shone a blue-white orb. No matter how far I ran, I'd never be able to catch up to it. Though it remained stubbornly reticent. That light kindly illuminated a path for me, inviting me, summoning me. Holding fast to that feeling, I continued chasing after the shadow of the moon. Turning around, I saw how the shelter cabin had grown small in the distance. It had been built in the middle of a deep hollow, like an earthen bowl. Yes. I turned back and continued my slow ascent of the slope. Climbing. Before long, I reached the top. And, sinks in a mountain range get really cold. I don't know if that's the best place to put your cabin, but... And what I saw was... a vast ocean, its depth the glossy sheen of dark velvet. Huh.
嘘だろ。
No way.
どうしてこんなところに海が。
How could there be an ocean here? Waves gently rolled around the ocean surface to quietly break on the shore. The jet black depths of that ocean spread out in all directions with no apparent end. The soft moonlight kissed the waves with a glossy brilliance. Looking upward, the starry sky felt as though it would fall at any moment. Far off in the distance, I could see the point where the horizon divided sea and sky. Looking to either side, I could see the bow of the coastline stretching far away in either direction. White caps broke against the shore. From there, the faint ripple of the waves reached my ears. A sweet melody like a lullaby. This was Mount Akakura, 1,200 meters above sea level. So why was there a shore here? As though something had snapped inside me, I began to run. I had to tell the others about this. Was this someone's sick idea of a joke? For there to be an ocean so close? And yet in spite of that, they were shutting themselves in the shelter cabin, waiting for a rescue team to arrive. It was too ridiculous. Why had they never noticed it before? Pushing through the fallen snow, I ran on. I all but tumbled down the hill, with the shelter cabin as my goal. With the goal of returning to their sides. I finally reached the cabin. Almost crawling, I pulled myself down the path to the door, and just as I reached my hand to open it, you lost all opportunity. Liberation. My surroundings changed in an instant. Darkness, I couldn't see a thing, but I could feel something like a piece of cloth covering me. Startled, I swept it away.
俺の部屋だ。
This is my room. I could tell instantly. How many transfers does this make? They always seem to occur whenever something important was going on, as if their timing had been chosen deliberately. I took the wristwatch. Maybe because they are. I took the wristwatch from my pocket and checked the time.
10時48分か。
10:48, huh? I'm muttering that I returned the watch. What was Kokoro doing until just now? In bed with the blanket over her
って
head?
ことは眠ってたのか？
Does that mean she was sleeping? I turned to the desk and grabbed the notepad lying there. There weren't any new messages. I thought of something and went outside. The pathway stretched all the way to the front gate. As I walked, I looked up at the moon for confirmation. Waning gibbous. Its shape resembled an open mouth, making it almost seem like it was laughing hysterically. I stood before the gate. Trying to figure out how to open it, I noticed a small control panel on the left. It appeared to be a computerized card reader that controlled the lock. The deep slot in the side made me realize immediately what it
カー
was.
ドリーダー？
A card reader. The wheels on my head were turning a little more quickly today. It's because of the chilly moonlight? They say that the moon has a great effect on the workings of the human mind, after all. At any rate, as soon as the image of the card reader appeared in my mind, a solution immediately followed. I plunged my hand into my pocket and pulled it out. It was the ID card I found in my room yesterday. Maybe it'll open if I use this. With great anticipation, I slid the card through the reader. It was a little anticlimactic how easily it had opened. I moved my card from a terminal and left through the gate. A faint sense of liberation. However, that was all. I'm finally here. I didn't see the impulse to yell anything like that. Come to think of it, the idea of developing a plan to free myself from Svea somehow never occurred to me. Even though I thought I want to free myself from this transference phenomenon on many occasions. Between that, the shelter cabin, and the killer chasing me, I've had my hands more than full with those three things alone. I hadn't been able to open the main gate before anyway. The reality of actually being able to leave Svea didn't bring me great joy. No, then it went without saying that this was the coast. There it was, with just a minute walk from the main gate. The beautiful white sand of the shoreline stretched out from east to west. Svea was on Asogi Island, so there was nothing strange about the ocean being here. But before my eyes, gently rolling waves, the jet-black depth of the ocean, the soft moonlight kissing the waves with its glossy brilliance, and the starry sky that felt as though it would fall at any moment. Far off in the distance, the point where the horizon divided sea and sky. The bow of the coastline, white caps that broke against the shore, and the faint ripple of the waves like a lullaby. It was a perfect copy. It was the same landscape I'd seen at Mount Agakura. I found myself unable to speak. Some frightening reality was steadily approaching. Only that ominous premonition remained, coiling in my chest like a whirlpool. I returned to my room and lay face down on the bed, speculating. You didn't go find the shelter cabin? The moon, the ocean. I had no idea what was happening. It was like... That's Tsugumi's name, right? Moon Ocean? It was like some black magic that had been cast upon me. Everything about this was so totally irrational. I couldn't help feeling like I'd been cursed. If I wanted to escape from this curse, I should have gathered my resolve, forget about everything, and make my escape from Svea. The ID card was still in my pocket after all. If I wanted to, I could go forth with this plan at any time. However, it's because I could go forth with it at any time that I return to Svea. It's irritating, but I can't run away from here yet. If I did, what would happen to Kokoro? To Lin? To Yobogi? If I left them now, they'd be caught in an avalanche and die on January 17th. I couldn't blame them. There's no way I would do something like that. And then there was the matter of the murderer pursuing me. And I still had plenty of questions about the transference phenomenon. It was impossible for me to just forget all about these mysteries after all. It's just the way I am. Until everything's been resolved, I'll stay here, come what may. I'd never be satisfied if I didn't. It'd be fine for me to make my escape after that, because the possibility remained open to me as long as I had my ID card. And I got transferred. Trauma. As I lay brooding over it, a transfer occurred. Kokoro's body was on a bed. It was, so to speak, sitting like a girl. I stretched out my legs and jumped off the bed. Present time, 12:01 a.m. The date had already changed. I could see Uni and Lin on the bunk beds. It sounded like they were asleep. I could hear them breathing, but I couldn't see Yomogi anywhere. Took a look down into the storeroom, but there was nobody there.
どこ行ったんだおっさ
Where
ん
did the old man go? I tried opening the door. Yomogi was standing outside. Standing with his back to me, he was gazing up at the moon. Even though he should have heard the sound of the door opening, he didn't turn around. I hesitated. Should I tell him the truth or not? The sea is likely still there, even now. Surrounding this little hill where the shelter cabin stands. If you climb up it and then ascend to the top, you can reach the coast. Should I tell him? No, it's not the right time, because that would mess the plot up. That's what I thought. Even if the four of us escaped from here, it wouldn't solve everything. Right now, Kokoro's consciousness is in my body. And at that same time, my consciousness is in Kokoro's. What would happen if I left Mount Akakura in this state? It's quite possible that we get stuck like this, unable to even return to normal. And even if we could, that wouldn't necessarily mean the end of the transference phenomenon. I'm not really sure, but I have a hunch that it's going to continue forever. I'm repeating myself now, but we can escape at any time. But if I rush things, I run the risk of causing irreparable damage, and that would cause big trouble. So I just kept quiet. Yeah, we know that you just stop transferring, and then you can't do anything because you're not transferring anymore. I decided not to tell Yomogi about it. Right now, my top priority is to clarify the cause of the transference phenomenon. Now is not the time to be taking risks. As I stood there thinking, Yomogi suddenly spoke up.
明日は純一の誕生日なんだ。
Tomorrow is Junichi's birthday.
純一っていうのは僕らの息子のことなんだけれど。
Junichi is our son. Bathed in moonlight, he looked somewhat small and lonely. Smoke climbed into the air from the cigarette between his lips. The long sigh that issued from those lips came out in a burst of pale vapor.
何歳に
How old will he be? I stood beside him and asked, gazing up at the waning gibbous moon with him.
あいつはもう永遠に年を取らない。
No, he'll never celebrate a birthday again.
殺されたんだよ。犬伏恵子という女にね。
He was killed by a girl named Inubushi
2
Keiko
年前の1月14日に。
on January 14th, 2 years ago.
明日は息子の命日。
Tomorrow is the anniversary of my son's death.
命を授かった日であると同時に
The day he
命を奪われた日でもあるんだよ。
The day he was given life, and the day it was taken away from him. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't find the words. On any other occasion, I'd have been surprised to hear the name Inabushi Keiko. But for some reason, my mind had gone completely silent. All the agitation and confusion deserted me. As though they'd all died away, a calm stillness reigned. But deep in my chest, a biting cold pain ate at
でも
me.
ね、
But you
純
know,
一は僕らに新しい命を運んできてくれたんだ。
Junichi gave us a new life.
妻のお腹には今その命が宿っている。
Oh. In my wife's womb, another life is growing.
不謹慎だと思われるかもしれないけれど、
You may think it's
彼
foolish,
にとってその命は希望となった。
but to us that life became our hope.
今までは暗闇の中に閉ざされていたからね。
Until then, we were lost in the darkness.
赤ん坊ができてようやく一条の光を見出したんだ。
Now, we know he has a younger sibling, but this would be yet another one. With the baby, we finally found a new light.
もちろん純一のことを忘れたわけじゃない。
So Utsumi is the one who's pregnant then. Of course, we haven't forgotten Junichi.
今でも毎日のように。
Even now, every day.
いや、本当のことを言えば四六時中絶え間なくあいつのことを考えてる。
No, this kind of it describes your appearance a bit. No, to tell the truth, I think about him day and night without rest.
できることなら純一を再びこの手に、
If I could, I just once more.
この腕に抱きしめて。
I'd want to hold him in my arms.
でもね、
But you know,
新しい命は 純一が与えてくれたものなんじゃないかって、そう思って。
We thought that maybe this new life was given to us by Junichi.
だから僕らは全てを受け入れることにしたんだ。
So we accepted it with open
予
hearts.
定日は今年の8月。
She's due in August.
僕は純一に礼を言うために墓参りに行こ
August comes up again. But she's not heavily pregnant in Svea, though. I wanted to go visit his grave to thank
うと。だ
him.
がこの分だと命日には間に合いそうもないな。
But at this rate, I don't think I'll make it in time.
どうしてこんなことになってしまったんだか。
How did it turn out this way? The ash from the cigarette dropped onto the snow like tears. With a faraway look on his eyes, he gazed up at the orb in the sky. January 14th. Okay, so it was 13th. Not 14th in my note. So 13th corresponds to the 19th. 3:30 a.m. I'm sitting in the corner of the living area. I'm doing this in order to ambush a certain someone the moment she leaves her room. If my intuition is correct, she'll definitely come. Last night, after listening to Yomogi's story, I buried into my bed at the shelter cabin and fallen deep into thought. Completely unaware of what was happening around me, I'd suddenly found myself back at Svea. Right, so he's waiting on Utsumi because she knows she's going to come out because she has something that she would do. I came to my own bed, my eyes closed. From the position of my body, I could tell that Kokoro's consciousness had already gone to sleep, but I didn't feel the least bit tired. A flurry of sparks were going off inside my mind. Instead of counting sheep, I was absent-mindedly thinking over everything that had happened over the last few days. When I say thinking, I don't mean my usual meanderings. I believe that all of our problems were interconnected, like the mesh of a net, and had built up upon each other into a complex, multi-layered structure. If I think about one problem, I have to consider another related problem as well, and then I start thinking about that, yet another one comes to mind. Like this, my thought process continued on without end. If I could grasp the thread and reel it in somehow, I feel like all the pieces would fall into place right away. But at present, nothing would make me feel like I was getting any closer to finding it. I could only continue to grope my way through the fog of endless questions spreading out around me. If I strive to see it as a whole, I lose sight of the details, and if I try to narrow my field of vision and study a particular point, I lose my perspective on the essentials of the whole thing. This is a dilemma, but I couldn't continue to flounder this way. I have to keep going forward. Without worrying about the failure, forward, ever forward. And in order to do that, I have to make up my mind and start cutting this chain apart at the links. If I can't dismantle this snarl of yarn, then I have no choice but to snip it apart into manageable bundles. For convenience sake, I named the big proposition that incorporated every aspect of the problem, R. Following that, I sorted the contents of R into three main parts. R1, the personality transfer. R2, my goals in both the Sogi Island and Mount Akakura. 3, Utsumi and Otori. Below, I'll list everything I've figured out until now. Personality transfer. First out, the phenomenon began on January 11th, around 8 to 9 p.m. Ever since then, each transfer from Asogi Island to Mount Akakura occurred irregularly, following no apparent schedule. On the other hand, I did discover regularity in the transfers from Mount Akakura to Asogi Island. The time of my transfers on January 12th. 1:07 p.m. transferred to shelter cabin. 1:40 p.m. transferred to Svea. 6:03 p.m. transferred to the shelter cabin. Blank p.m. returned to Svea. 7:33 p.m. transferred to shelter cabin. 8:06 returned to Svea. The times of my transfers on January 13th. 1:52 p.m. transferred to shelter cabin. 2:25 p.m. returned to Svea. 10:15 p.m. Shelter cabin. 10:48 Svea. As the above list indicates, the period of time my consciousness can spend at Mount Akakura is limited to 33 minutes. It seems clear that these 33-minute periods of time allow for no fluctuation and are more or less the absolute rule. Of course, I say this from my own standpoint. From Kokoro's consciousness, it's exactly the opposite. The period of time Kokoro's consciousness can stay at Asogi Island is set for 33 minutes, but there is no rule governing her time at Mount Agakura. In this manner, the transfer back and forth between our bodies. When I'm in her body, she is in mine. When I'm in my original body, she is in hers. Something like that, anyway. The next step is to come up with the strategy for bringing this phenomenon to a conclusion. I wish to end these annoying and puzzling personality transfers as quickly as possible. and Kokoro probably feels the same. It's only natural. Kokoro and I each just want to lead a normal life. We want to fall in love, work, play, build a family, and eventually become grandparents just as much as anyone else. We long for that kind of normal human life. I have no intention of being endlessly jerked around by some personality transfer. What's more, these transfers aren't occurring in parallel at the same point on time axis, but across a 1-year time gap. So you think. In other words, a time jump and a personality transfer occur together. In reality, a really, honestly, seriously maddening, accursedly annoying situation. If I could speak plainly, what I'd really love to do is to wash my hands of it completely and run away to some tropical island. But even if I escaped to Syndonia on the planet Mars, there's still no guarantee the transfers would stop. And that's why I have to find a way to solve it all, here and now. Because if I could very well be that the one fated to die in the avalanche on January 17, 2011 might not be Kokoro, but me. And even if, for argument's sake, it were Kokoro's consciousness, I'm not sure that would happen to my body after that. Perhaps the transfers continue even after one of us dies. And if that's the case, the next time I transfer, that would mean I would be buried forever under the snow. Just the thought of it makes my hair stand on end. I've got to do everything I can to keep it from happening. Our time limit is drawing ever nearer. By January 17th, 3 days from now, I'll have to figure out this phenomenon and put an end to these transfers, no matter what it takes. That's my mission. But to find the solution, I first have to ascertain its cause. And to tell the truth, I haven't the slightest idea how I'm going to do that. However, I do have plenty of information, and some part of it might even hold the very clue that I need. The moon. Why did I see the same phase of the moon both on Mount Akakura and Asagi Island? The phase that I observed last night, January 13th, in both places correspond to that night in 2012. The ocean. Once I climbed out of that bowl-like hollow, why did I see the ocean? And it wasn't as though I saw it in the distance either. It was right there, right under our noses. Moreover, if I open the gate to Svea on Asogi Island, there's an ocean waiting for me too. What does it mean? The existence of Uni. Up until now, I was convinced of this, that the Uni who existed in body at Mount Akakura was the same one who, at the end of the long struggle, had finally reached the shelter cabin after surviving the crash. And the Uni at Asogi Island was the one who'd been found by the rescue team on January 17, 2011, and come to Svea 1 year later. After that, they experienced the same transference phenomenon as Kokoro and I, but only swapped bodies once. That's the reason behind the various discrepancies in their memories and all the other problems, or so I imagined. But that doesn't seem to be the case. To begin with, for the two unis to have transferred only once, while Kokoro and I have transferred back and forth many times, is unnatural no matter how you think about it. There's only one conclusion I can draw from this. No, it's still nothing more than a hypothesis. I'll have to reinvestigate this once I've gathered more proof. And it just stops. Right? Yeah, because it appears to be the same time. And he doesn't give it. He leaves it to me to figure it out. And I haven't figured it out. Sorry, Satoru. The things I have to accomplish at both Asagi Island and at Mount Akakura. I've just taken it upon myself to make figuring out the transfer phenomenon and putting it at an end to it my goal. But to be honest, there's sort of take a back seat to my other two goals. In other words, beyond just figuring out the transfer phenomenon, I have two other duties that I consider to be more important. First is finding out who's trying to kill me at Asagi Island. Of course, since my investigation would be meaningless if I lose my life in the process, it goes without saying that my goal here is to keep giving whoever it is the slip and staying alive. Who is it that pushing me off the clock tower, tried to drown me in the bathtub, and stabbing me in the dark? Is it Otori, Utsumi, or an unseen fifth person? It definitely can't be Uni. No, I can't completely deny that possibility. How the hell did things turn out this way? How did I get stuck in this state of affairs with someone out to kill me? Anyway, it's a fact that somebody's after my life. I gotta find out the truth as soon as possible. In order to wipe out this grave threat, it's urgent that I find the culprit and put a stop to their plans. My second objective, compared to the first, is sure to be even more difficult. If the enemy of Asogi Island is human, you could say that at Mount Akakura the enemies are nature, time, fate themselves. The forces of nature which no human can control. Those are the opponents I must fight against. Right now, my second goal is to rescue the 4 survivors from Mount Akakura. According to the history I know, 3 of those 4 are going to be caught up in an avalanche on the 17th and die. Moreover, one of those 3 is Mayuzumi Lin, the woman I went out with for a long time ago. From my point of view, it's been a year and a half since our breakup. For her, it's been 6 months. My romantic feelings for her have already faded, but even so, the pure affection I held towards her never changed. A relationship of 2 years forged a special connection between us. Even though we broke up, there's no way I could view her as just a stranger now. Mayuzumi Lin is an important person to me. And now if you view them in the same terms of affection, my feelings for Fuyukawa Kokoro equaled my feelings for Lin. For these past few days, Kokoro and I have shared our bodies. We have made to experience the same situations and overcame many difficulties together. Kokoro and I are quite literally united in body and soul. Strictly speaking, there are two important points that join us this way. The death of Fuyukawa Kokoro, directly as indirectly and in every sense of the word, means the end of Yukito Satoru. And the death of Yukito Satoru in turn means the complete disappearance of Fuyukawa Kokoro from this world. If be they relatives or lovers, they can hardly be two separate individuals anywhere in this world with a relationship as intimate as ours. Yet we've never even met face to face. She's farther from and yet closer to me than anyone else. She is my fate and existence equal to my own life. Of course, that doesn't mean I don't care about Yomogi or Uni, although it's a little different than what is for Kokoro, as we are comrades brought together by fate, make no mistake. Though all the times we've met, I started to feel a sort of empathy and affinity with them. However, now that we've already made so many memories together, my desire to save them rivaled that which I felt for Kokoro and Lin. That's why I have to save the 4 refugees of Mount Agakura, Lin, Kokoro, Yomogi, and Uni at any cost. I won't allow them to die on January 17th, as history dictates. I'll change history. Definitely, absolutely. But you're not going to have a chance to. It's completely up to Kokoro. You don't have a chance. I'm the only one in the world who can do that. No, Kokoro can. Yomogi, Lin, and Kokoro are people of the past, so I guess they won't believe the story in that newspaper so easily. To a certain extent, some of them may be take an optimistic view of their fate, even with all they know. But I don't. I can't possibly think that way, because I'm from the future. According to the rescue team, Uni was the only survivor. That's what's really going to happen, and among the refugees at the shelter cabin, only I know it. And maybe Uni too, I wonder. Does he know? I don't know for sure, but in either case, I can't count on his help now. So that means that I'm the only one who can change the past. The only one who can rewrite history is me, a man from the future. In conclusion, I have to find the culprit at Aosagi Island, save the 4 people at Mount Agakura, and simultaneously solve the matter of the transference phenomenon. A really, honestly, seriously, maddeningly, accursedly annoying state of affairs. This alone is complex enough to fry every synapse in my brain. But on top of that, there's one more thing I have to think about. Utsumi and Hotori. Yomogi told me last night that their son Juniko was killed at Iwazumi Municipal Hospital on January 14, 2009. To Yomogi, that was 2 years ago, and to Utsumi, 3 years. The life of Juniko, then 9 years old, was snatched away by the hands of Inubushi Keiko. Her motives were unclear, but it said that it was a murderous fit brought on by her abnormal state of mind. And because of her, an innocent boy died senselessly. Can such a thing ever be forgiven? Inubushi Keiko, even now, is living in a carefree everyday life here in Sphia. No, I better rephrase that. Even now, Suzukaje Hotori is. The one who committed the crimes at Iwazumi Municipal Hospital is probably the Suzukaje Hotori personality. I still haven't spoken to the Inubushi Keiko personality, unless she's lying. But I understood. Hotori was behaved in certain ways in order to play with my emotions, and she didn't hesitate to kill that rat with a single blow. After seeing such eccentric behavior, abnormality, and even cruelty from her, the conjecture that Hotori was the true murderer had turned into a conviction. He's probably wrong, though. I think that within Inubushi Keiko, the personality that holds authority over the others is Hotori. The fact that Hotori is the only one I've been able to talk to so far is because she's been the one controlling Inubushi's body this whole time. And on that day, she took the lives of 12 people. Without any particular reason, just because of an impulse during her fit, she crushed those people like insects. I felt like Suzukaje Hotori would have no problem committing that inhumane act so casually. Just thinking about that incident is enough to make me feel a heavy sorrow in my heart. When I think about how it was just a way for her to express the emotions suppressed inside her, just for that innocent lives were lost. A heart-rending, almost unbearable misery sunk through my chest. Even I, a person who was in no way involved with that incident, feel like this. How deep a hatred must a parent who lost their child feel toward that killer? What would I do if my own child was so senselessly murdered? If one day, without warning, someone irreplaceable was simply stolen from me? If my peaceful life was smashed to pieces, torn from its roots? I would definitely kill her. I'd kill her. The same way she killed my child. No, I'd be even more cruel. Could Utsumi have come to Svea for that purpose? She came here for revenge. I don't know how she managed to get into Svea, but anyway, for the injured party and the assailant to have converged in the same place can't be a coincidence, right? Today, January 14th, is Yuniko's birthday, as well as the anniversary of her death. There's no doubt that Utsumi is going to try something. I felt so intense uneasiness that I realized that. That's why I'm here right now, waiting for Utsumi to come out of her room. It's past 4 a.m. now, the same time that Hotori crept into Iwazumi Municipal Hospital. If Utsumi came out for revenge, she's not going to let this chance slip away. However, as I predicted, Utsumi came out of her room right now. What would I do? Still hadn't decided. I wouldn't say stop this nonsense and restrain her, or would I hide in the darkness and silently watch her break into Hotori's room? I don't really know myself why I'm trying to ambush her, but no matter what, I couldn't just sit there in my room and do nothing. Outside, the darkness of the night still reigns supreme. Because of the season of our latitude, the sun doesn't rise here until well after 7 a.m. I wait for her. Holding my breath, trying to conceal my presence and clearing my mind, I focus entirely on listening. Fitful. I heard the sound of a door opening. Just as I expected, Utsumi appeared. Almost gliding through the darkness, she headed towards the kitchen. Doing my best to hide my presence from her, I followed. Utsumi leaned down in front of the sink. She appeared to be searching for something in the cupboard below
何やっ
it.
てるんだそんなとこで。
What are you doing here? I said quietly. Startled, she
何っ
jumped.
て別に
What do you... Well, nothing, really.
ちょっと喉が渇いたから水でも飲もうと思って。
I was just a little thirsty, so I thought I'd get a drink of water. She slowly stood back up. The door of the cupboard was hanging
そんなと
open.
こにはコップもペットボトルも置いてないはずだが。
There shouldn't be any cups or bottled water down there, though. Her lips betrayed no movement. She silently walked over to the opposite corner of the kitchen and took a glass from the
あなた
cupboard.
こそどうしてここに？
So what are you doing here? She asked, her back to me. I couldn't see her expression, but there was this very slightest tremor in her voice. I came to watch over you.
あなたを見張ってたんだ。
I came to watch over you, I
見張っ
answered.
てた？なぜ？
Watch over me. Why?
あなたはこの時間に必ず姿を見せる。
Because
そう
I
思っ
thought,
たからだ。
because I thought you'd definitely show up at this hour.
何が言いたいのかよくわからないんだけど。
I'm afraid I don't understand what you mean. When she turned around, she held 2 glasses in her hands.
とにかく座ったら。
Anyway, won't you have a seat? As urged, I pulled out a chair. She made her way over to the fridge and opened the door. She took out a bottle of mineral water from
内海
inside.
さん、喉が渇いたなんて嘘だろ。
Utsumi-san, you were lying about being thirsty, weren't
冷
you?
蔵庫はあなたの部屋にもあるし、ミネラルウォーターもその中に保存されてるはずだ。
There's a fridge in your room, and there should be mineral water in
喉
it.
が渇いただけなら、わざわざキッチンにまで足を運ぶ必要はない。
There was no need for you to drag yourself all the way to the kitchen just for a drink of water. A thin smile formed on her face as I confronted her.
切らしちゃってたのよ。
I ran
もう
out.
残ってなかったの。
There wasn't any water
だ
left.
からここに。
That's why I came here.
そんなことよりあなたも飲まない？
But anyway, won't you have a drink? She put 2 glasses down on the table and poured water into
どう
each.
ぞ。
Here. She placed one of the glasses in front of me. Do not drink that. Don't drink it. I refused. Her behavior was way too suspicious. It was possible that she drugged the water while her back was turned. That's what I thought. I pushed the glass away. She furrowed her brow and tilted her head slightly.
いらないの？
You don't want it?
あ、悪いけど。
Yeah, sorry.
そう。
I see. With that soft whisper, she walked over to me, narrowing the distance between us. She stood in front of me, gripping her own glass tightly in both hands. She stared at the transparent liquid inside. We didn't move. Neither she nor I stirred. An air of unease enveloped us. Beyond the darkness that separated us, I could barely hear the faint sound of her breathing. Standing there, wordlessly in the dark, she resembled nothing much resembled nothing so much as a malicious spirit that had wandered free of its earthly body. I couldn't feel the slightest warmth from her. And at last, without once raising the glass to her lips, she put it back down on the
飲ま
table.
ないのか
Aren't you going to drink it? No.
どうして
どうしてだと思う？
Why do you think? I looked at her face. She stood over me, looking down at me as I sat at the table.
何か都合の悪いものが入ってるからかな
Is that because there's something bad in it, perhaps?
違うわ。
That's not the reason.
じゃあなぜ
Then why?
私が飲みたかったのは水じゃなかったの。
It wasn't water that I wanted to drink.
こんなものを飲んでも私の渇きは癒えないのよ。
It's like I wanted to drink the blood of Inabushi Keiko. Something like this can't quench my thirst. Whispered words. I couldn't read her eyes. Her eye sockets were veiled in shadow, looking blank and hollow as though her eyes had dropped out, leaving only empty cavities.
ねえ、ゆきどくん。
You know, Yukito-kun. She extended a thin finger toward the glass. She traced its outer rim, then dipped her finger into the liquid. She slowly tipped it towards me until it fell over. The water began to spill out. It spread across the table as if crawling. Finally, it reached the edge and ran off, dripping onto the floor in a thin stream. I watched all this in silence. I was captivated by the falling drops of water. At that instant, something stabbed the back of my neck. There was a piercing pain that momentarily dyed my vision white. A dazzling light flashed before me, then shattered into pieces. My vision soon returned. However, the scene my eyes beheld was slightly different from the one I just left. My line of sight was tilted at a right angle. I could feel the hard floor against my cheek. I'd fallen face down onto the ground. I tried to pick myself up, but couldn't put my power into my arms or legs. It was still physically possible for me to move, but I couldn't remember how. What just happened? You got smacked, is what happened. My consciousness was hazy, I couldn't string my thoughts together. I wanted to look around me, but my neck wouldn't move the way I commanded it to, so there was nothing I could do. All I could move was my eyeballs, which I darted around frantically. I looked up and saw Utsumi standing stock still beside me. Her right hand was clutching an object I remembered seeing before, an object shaped like a gun. An injection gun, the same one that she shot Hotori with.
誰にも邪魔なんてさせない。
I won't let anyone
こ
interfere.
の計画は誰にも止められないの。
No one can stop my plan. So this pours cold water on that Utsumi is doing a recreation. She's just a murderer. And so we think. Plan. My prediction had hit the mark. Unless it's actually a recreation the whole time. This woman came to Sphia to kill Hotori. No, Inabushi. I wanted to say something but couldn't get my voice to leave my throat. I was careless. Why did I ignore the signs? I felt disgusted at myself for letting my guard down for even a second. What was the point of even coming here to watch over her?
安心して。
Don't
しば
worry.
らく動けなくなるだけだから。
You won't be able to move for a while, but that's all. Her voice was getting more and more distant. Little by little, my consciousness began to fade.
さよなら、ゆきどくん。
Goodbye, Yukito-kun. With those parting words, she disappeared from view. I couldn't just let her go like this. I couldn't let her kill Hotori. A grand struggle against the demon lurking inside me had now begun. I struggled frantically, trying to grasp hold of my dimming consciousness. Okay, it's a very weird spot to stop, but I think I'm going to stop right here. So, save. And then, cool. And after I save, I'm going to go to the title. Yes. Yes. Don't forget to do that. First I'll look here. So we're still just missing the rec site, right? Yeah, that rec site CG. We got all the rest of them. Oh, now this is fascinating. So, in here we missed two of them. Huh. This one here too. But these happen if we lost. If we lost a basketball game. Here's the gate opening. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Over 2/3 on the scenes. About 60% through the not the timeline, but the messages. That includes like all the options though, if you have things that change depending on what choices you make. So it's more than 60%, 59% through the story, that is. Okay. And we don't have any new endings. Okay. So I presume that these are the Satoru ones starting from 73. Now we're down to 114. And it goes to 154. Okay, so about halfway through.